This week on the podcast, we have two legends of the podcasting world to help us discuss Roland Emmerich's Godzilla.
Science cannot explain him.
We're looking at the dawn of a new species.
Technology cannot stop him.
The heat seekers can't lock, sir.
But unless we outthink him,
We believe it may be hiding inside one of the buildings.
But you don't know for sure.
we won't survive him.
We need bigger guns.
Rated PG-13.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast where we dissect the good, the bad, and the ugly of your favorite. Fuck. Sorry, let me redo that. This is it happens every episode, guys. This happens every
Our
episode.
favorite fuck.
Yep,
That's
my
nice.
favorite fuck. And also, Loysauce, you can swear, you can do whatever you want on this show.
Yeah.
There's no censoring on here. All
Okay,
right,
that's bullshit. Don't listen to him. He does censor me.
certain
Carry on.
things, Dan, mostly from your mouth.
That one was bad.
Yeah.
The one that he said he was cutting. That
All
was
right.
bad. Just saying.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Dissect That Film podcast, where we dissect the good, the bad, and the ugly of your favorite films and film franchises. I am your host, Brett Parker. Joining me, as always, my wonderful co-host, Dan and Angela of DNA Gaming.
Hello.
And back again for a wonderful late 90s flick to cover. We have the man behind Epic Film Guys. We got Justin back on the show, everybody. Welcome back, Justin.
Oh, thank you. What an amazing introduction that is.
Yeah, you
so honored
deserve
to be
it.
here. Anytime hanging out with y'all. It's a blast. Even if I have to piss, I'm always going to be here. I swear and I promise. But
Sweet.
this is the first time I've
Something else.
usually I come alone, but I didn't come alone because
You're
what we're
coming with someone
talking
else
about-
this time.
I mean-
all over you, Loysauce. The god of podcasting himself, Loysauce, is here with me because I couldn't come along by myself. I'm no expert on this subject matter, but he is.
Welcome to the show.
Thank
Yeah,
you. I'm
I was
honored.
just in the gutter.
He's
All the
blushing.
way
Don't
down.
let anyone tell you otherwise. He's blushing. Look at him. Just look at him.
I'm blushing because I'm amongst some very talented podcasters, so I'm very pleased to be here. No, it's you guys. It's you
Shit.
right there.
I'm looking for somebody else in the room here. I'm like, he's
Definitely
clearly
not me,
talking about
that's for
somebody.
sure. That's not me.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Like I said, I said it before we even went live here. As soon as Justin said your name about coming on the show, I said, Loysauce. Oh, absolutely. There wasn't even a hesitation when he said
He's still alive. Believe it or not, he's not dead. He's right
Yeah.
there in the flesh.
I don't have a podcast to my name, but occasionally you'll find me on Epic Film Guys. But really, I just don't want to miss any opportunity to talk about Godzilla, even if we're not really talking about Godzilla.
God damn you. You're already misbehaving. We're only 5 minutes in.
I'm so sorry. I'll
You
hold my
promised
tongue.
you would behave yourself if I brought you on. Okay. Please.
No, it's okay. No one behaves on this show. So yeah, we're talking about Godzilla 1998. This is crazy because literally our first ever episode of this podcast, back before we were even dissect that film, we covered 2014's Godzilla, and we went through the MonsterVerse. That was our first four episodes, correct? And then we haven't really talked about Godzilla much, other than we've talked about kaiju movies over on our Patreon exclusive show, The Monster Zones. You should check that out over on patreon.com/dissect that film. Little plug. So
we did
it's
do an
good.
episode on Shin Godzilla.
Oh, that's fuck. We did cover Shin Godzilla. Oh man,
He
what a great
forgot
movie! I
already.
know.
That's how you know you're a legendary podcaster, when you forget certain movies that you've talked about. There it is right there.
It really is. People are like, hey, what episode is that movie you talked about? And I'll be like, are you serious? I can't even remember half the crap I talked about last week.
Yeah.
That's why I listen to my own podcast, because it's not the fact of like trying to fix. Yes, I do try to look at things to fix in the podcast, but it's more to be like, what the hell did we even talk about? So yeah, that's just how great my memory is. But this, yeah, it's great to finally be back and talk about Godzilla again, especially a Godzilla that is so controversial. It's, a Godzilla film that is, to be honest, the way I've seen comments on this movie, it is kind of pretty close to being split down the middle. You have people who hate this movie, and then you have people, and I'm going to show my hand early because I don't care, who love this movie. Yeah.
I knew I was in good company again.
Yes, clearly I'm rocking my new Tapes from the Crypt Godzilla 98 shirt. It's
amazing.
It's
I love the
amazing.
back, dude. I saw you post that earlier. I love the back of the shirt.
Did you like that intimidating pose I had? I didn't mean to do that. That's just how my camera was. I was like,
no, you're channeling ZILLA, man. I mean, you're channeling one of the most intimidating versions of Godzilla ever put to screen.
It's amazing. I literally bought the $20 4K Blu-ray like last week because I already have this movie on Blu-ray, and I have this beautiful VHS that I bought not too long ago. But I had to see what it all looks like in 4K because I am so used to watching it on VHS. I had to see it, and we'll talk about my thoughts on how the movie looked at 4K. But let's go around the room now and talk about our history and our experience with Godzilla 98. And we're going to start with our first time guest, Loysauce. Tell us your history. Don't tell us what you thought of this movie. Don't tell us your thoughts or anything. We're going to do that at the end. Yeah, I'm really bad at this, even though I tell people this is how it goes. Tell us your history with this film.
Well, I'm going to take you back to when I was a wee little 5-year-old. I loved dinosaurs. I loved
It's a baby.
giant anything. And so Godzilla captured my imagination really early on. And I'm going to hold up these books and show them to you. So this is the actual book that I had as a 5-year-old.
Yes.
This was my first exposure to Godzilla. So I have the earliest memory I have of Godzilla is actually the 98 film. Via this book, The Making of Godzilla, which proclaims you are there for the filming of the most spectacular scenes in movie history, which, yeah. So this was my first exposure, and then I became more familiar with Godzilla via this book, the official Godzilla Compendium, which, as you can see, I read so much, it's literally falling apart. So these were my first exposures. Now, when I looked through this Making of Godzilla book, it terrified me. I was scared to watch this film because I looked at the still images in this book and I imagined the movie in my head. And Godzilla, from the still images in this book, looks pretty fearsome. So I imagined a movie that would capture, the idea of Godzilla that I had in my head. And I didn't see the movie until several years later when I bought it on DVD. And I wish I hadn't, because the movie that I imagined in my head was much better than what I ended up seeing. But that's neither here nor there. I've been a big Godzilla fan for a long time. After checking out the original 1956 Godzilla King of the Monsters from my local library on VHS. And ever since then, it's just kind of been like a love affair. And it's only become more passionate and more intense the more Godzilla media comes out. It's a great time to be a Godzilla fan with Shin Godzilla and the Singular Point anime and all of the merchandise and the upcoming Godzilla -1 coming out. I mean, there's lots to, and the MonsterVerse films as well, which have been very good to us as giant monster movie fans. So anyway, I'm a little bit obsessed. So forgive me in advance if I nerd out even more.
We have Dan is our resident Godzilla just fanatic. We literally, when we covered Godzilla King of the Monsters, we had we had Dan and we had another guest who is also a huge Godzilla fan, and the episode is 3 hours long. So you could, that's just how how much information and just information just being thrown at each other. It was insane, and I was just soaking it all in. It was great. So
yeah, I'm gonna go back and listen to that.
It's a wild one. It's a strap in. Those are that's early episodes where we didn't do any editing. It was all done live on Twitch, so it's an experience. But I do recommend them.
Hell yeah,
Justin, what is your history with this little film?
I have what you would call a massive, gigantic history with this film. I was in 8th grade. I'd gone to Taco Bell for dinner that night. The day before, I had gone to Toys R Us as an 8th grader and bought one of the figures, and I saw this shit on opening motherfucking night. As you said, we're not going to give initial thoughts in our opening, but I will say that myself and my friends that attended this screening on opening night walked out pretty satisfied. Also, it was the first Godzilla movie I had ever seen.
Wow. I thought I was going to be the only one.
Nope. Now we're 2.
Yeah. All right.
I remember the toys very vaguely, and I remember like begging my parents to get me Godzilla toys, and I never got one, but I do remember the massive merchandising and the advertising campaign.
When you walked
for this
in
movie.
Toys R Us had like how they used to when they were a thing. You walked in and their huge display when you first walked in was all for this movie. So it was pretty big.
Yeah, I had the 12-inch figure. I think it was the pretty big figure of this Godzilla. I wish I'm so mad that I literally have none of the toys I had when I was a kid, because I had a lot of retro, like I had Godzilla toys from this movie. I had Jurassic Park and the Lost World. I had the Mercedes from the Lost World and all the Raptors and T-Rex. Oh man, so many. But fortunately, I have none of it left. But on to something a little brighter. And Angelo, who wants to start? Who wants to tell us their history with Godzilla 98?
I'm not going to say how old I was when I first saw it, but I did see it the year after it came out.
How dare you not tell us your age when you saw the movie?
Even though
we're all friends here.
I ain't gonna do the math. I'll be 37 this year, if that gives you any indication.
I'm still older than all of y'all, so
not by much. Parker's still a baby to me, and every time he's like, I wasn't even born when this movie came out, I'm like, shut up.
I was for this one.
Yes. I did not get to see this one in theaters. I don't remember why. Probably because we were whatever. Girls in my family didn't get boys' toys growing up. So no, I didn't get any toys for it. But I was so jealous. I was like, damn it. Looking back, I'm like, I really wanted those toys.
Get all the good toys. We had the T-Rexes that would eat the little action figures that Gulper T-Rexes and stuff.
Yeah.
God, being a kid was so great.
I'm still one.
Yes, we're all still children at heart.
You see all the toys that are back here?
We took our actual child. I took my actual childhood for granted.
Just handfuls of toys all over, all around me.
They're everywhere. Like, we have all kinds of Godzilla figures. Not just Godzilla, but I have my favorite monster is Ghidorah. So that's who I have.
It's all out there.
And it's all out there. I told Dan, I was like, man, I need to go get my Ghidorah. Show it off.
Again, why our King of the Monsters episode was 3 hours long, because Angela loves Ghidorah.
I love Ghidorah. I'm sorry. And Loysauce talking about the anime. I'm like,
well, he was talking about the movie. He was talking about the series after the movies.
I know, but
we didn't finish all of it.
We didn't finish all of it. I know we need to go back and finish, but it's like, it's so good. But people complain, So now being older, I learned that my mom loves Godzilla, and I was like, Mom,
can't love Godzilla.
Why do you hate when you find that kind of information out so late in life? You're like, what the hell?
How long did she keep your Godzilla DVD?
They never watched it because they were busy working on stuff.
But she
I know, I gotta
loves
see if I got
Godzilla,
more.
and she loves Jurassic Park. And I was like, how did it take me 20-something years to learn what you liked like that?
I didn't know my parents actually loved me until
hello?
I got older.
What?
Oh,
It's just a joke, guys. It's just a fucking joke.
I still wonder. I'm just kidding. But yeah, there's nothing like that first time you watch it. And like it's one of those, it's been a while since we watched it this past time.
Mm.
It's been a while.
It really has. So there was like, man, I don't remember this part of the movie. And then you get certain scenes and I was like, I don't remember this happening. So it was kind of like me watching it all over again. You know, I've had 3 kids, so my brain is just like, but it was definitely worth the watch again. And it will be worth the watch several more times.
That's what I like to hear. I'm on the right podcast here, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. That's why he keeps coming back.
I get talkative when I've had alcohol. Sorry.
Me too. Welcome to the club.
And I love your cup. I want that cup.
TJ Maxx, $10 in the Halloween section.
If you want to know all the fun stuff that's going on at all the stores, especially when it comes to the spooky stuff for Halloween, just follow Justin over at Epic Film Guys on TikTok, Instagram, because he posts all those stuff, and you know where to find all of it.
I need to take pictures of all the stuff I've scored lately because I have a Home Goods in Sevierville, which is like 20 minutes from us, which is I'm like, yes.
And Marshalls. And
yes. Well, we have a Marshalls in town.
Stuff. Yeah, it's crazy.
So it's like I've been spending a lot more money than I should. But
I don't even have
Halloween.
anywhere to put this thing. This thing is just sitting here next to me. He's like a pumpkin light. He's
That's
pretty
cool.
cute, right? I got him from IKEA. I don't know what to do with him, but I bought him.
Have an IKEA anywhere close, like 3
It's an hour and a
hours
half
from us.
away, but I drove to
Yeah.
it to buy that.
If only I didn't have
love
children,
IKEA.
I would drive those distances to go places.
Luckily, mine's an adult, so I can. Do
One
whatever
day
I
I will
want.
be just like you, Justin.
One
No,
day.
actually,
Free.
or at least half like you, you know?
I was gonna say it'll be a while.
You'll never be able to dye your hair like that. Parker. Never.
No, no.
Though,
I won't. I'll probably be
mean-
bald by the time I'm his age. So
I'm looking this good, and my son is 30, and he's on this show. So look at what happened there. That's just magic,
The
right?
genes run well in your family. Dan,
Yes.
what's your history with this movie?
Okay. So because terrible with names, was Loysauce? Is that what they call you? I'm sorry, I'm terrible with names.
that is
What do I
what
call
they
you,
call
Loy?
me. If you care to.
It's up to you. I don't know. I'm gonna call you whatever you want, man.
Loy,
It's
Bryan,
saucy a lot.
Loysauce, Saucy, whatever.
I'll go with Loy. I'll probably remember that.
Sure.
So you brought up your book, and that made me think of it. It's not affiliated with this movie. This was my first.
Oh, I
Godzilla.
recognize it well. Yes.
This was the the Crestwood House Monster series. This was
Yes.
my first Godzilla book, so I just
Mhm.
thought it's like I gotta go grab it. It's
I
gonna
love
turn
that.
into fucking show and tell, I swear. Anyway, I remember hearing about this movie coming up. Of course, I grew up watching Godzilla movies as far back as I can remember. I watched Godzilla movies, which there's another day to go into this. I probably talked about it in the Shin episode, so go back there if you want. We can elaborate more on that subject.
Oh, you'll elaborate.
But of course, anything new Godzilla related, you have to, I had to go see it. I remember. Does anybody remember coming attractions on ET?
Absolutely.
Not ET. What television?
Entertainment
There was-
Tonight. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, there was
for
like
sure.
they had the whole. Maybe it wasn't. It was some network that had the coming. That was just movie trailers. It was like 30-minute show. It was on at night.
I
or on
know
the
what you're
weekend.
talking about.
Yes.
I don't remember the name, but I know exactly what you're
I
talking
don't remember the
about.
network, but I do remember watching Entertainment Tonight because they talked about it on Entertainment Tonight. And
They
before
probably
this movie-
debuted the trailer, I think. If I remember correctly, maybe they did because they used to debut trailers before they would land in theaters, like the week before.
Yeah, so
Mhm.
they probably did because I remember them talking about this a few years before, and the clips, I remember this vividly as a kid, the clips they used talking about, hey, there's a new Godzilla movie coming out, was actually shots from 91's Godzilla versus King Ghidorah, which obviously we had not gotten the States at that point. So it was neat, like, what? What is this Godzilla movie I've never heard about? Whatever. Anyhow, so I remember seeing this on Coming Attractions with the old man fishing. So like had all that build up. I actually was at the point where I wasn't getting toys, oddly, at that time. So I did not really have any toys for it. But my dad made sure he went and seen this because my dad is one of the reasons I watched these movies. So we had to go see it opening night, and we'll discuss that when we get into telling everybody how we feel about the movie, because this was a roller coaster ride of emotions as far as this movie has gone throughout my life. And I remember it being at least an enjoyable experience going with my family to go watch this. This was my first Godzilla movie in theaters, which would be quickly followed up roughly 2 years later with Godzilla 2000. Which I managed to get that in theaters, which was fun. But anyway, like crap through a goose, for those of you who have watched that movie. Anyway, yeah, that's all I'm going to say other than that. But it's Godzilla stuff. How bad could it possibly be? Question mark. Godzilla's Revenge. All Monsters Attack.
I'd rather watch All Monsters Attack.
Dude, I love Godzilla.
I would watch Fun Wars.
Godzilla said I should learn to fight my own battles, you know?
Oh, God.
Fucking love, dude. I have come around in that movie so much, dude. It's great.
God. One day we're going to cover it on the Monster Zone. It's going to be great.
I cannot wait.
So yeah, my history with this movie is, so this came out in 98, a little bit before my 7th birthday. So I was probably around 7 when my grandma bought the VHS, because she literally bought every VHS that came out, and she bought Godzilla, and literally I didn't know anything about Godzilla. Seriously, knew nothing about Godzilla as a character at all. And so the only reason I was obsessed with this movie is because Jurassic Park is top 3 favorite film of all time. I love dinosaurs. I still do today. Dinosaurs are awesome. And this was just another dinosaur movie. Like it was just more dinosaur action. And to be honest, I feel like at times I probably watched this more than I watched Jurassic Park, because I feel like there's more going on. In actuality, I've seen Jurassic Park way more. It's Jaws and Jurassic Park are like on the pantheon when it comes to how many times I've seen a certain movie. Godzilla, though, was pretty damn close. I've seen this movie so many times. I probably watch it at least every couple years. I watched it twice in the last couple days just for this episode, because I just wanted to sit down and rewatch it again because I as you know, I take notes, and sometimes, you know, you miss things when you take notes and while you're watching a movie. And so I just wanted to sit down. I bought that 4K. I just wanted to sit down and watch the movie. And, you know, I had my kid, you know, it's one of those movies you can throw on. I got young kids, so it was good to be able to throw a movie on and not have to worry about, you know, being like, don't look at that, you know, get to watch it. And then last night I rewatched it again for
cover their eyes with the movie.
In this one, Godzilla eat a helicopter.
Oh shit.
So, and then I took my notes again. I finished it up yesterday, and it's such a,
dude, don't say it.
I know I can't. I mean, I already showed my hand. I already showed my hand earlier.
He already said
but my experience with this movie is it reminds me a lot of my grandma. She is the biggest inspiration behind me starting this show. So this is, you know, one of the many movies that I remember watching with her for the very first time. And, you know, like I said, she's the reason I do this today and why I love talking about movies. So that's my experience with this movie. So if you guys are ready, let's talk a little bit of the behind the scenes shenanigans that happened with this movie before we get into the plot. So
Parker is one of those kids that, you know, you play card games with and they can't hold their cards. And they're just like,
I'm just bad at this. I'm just bad at I just want to talk about how much I love this movie.
You just happen to see what cards he's holding. He's just like,
symbol under the 8 meme.
Yeah.
So
it's okay.
Godzilla was directed by Roland Emmerich, someone who didn't want to direct this movie at all.
No, they didn't. They fucking suck.
Nope.
Anyway, go ahead.
He wanted to direct a movie similar to Armageddon and Deep Impact, but because those movies were already being made, he pretty much was like, fine, whatever, I'll do this. He signed on to direct it. He purposely created the design of Godzilla to try to get out of it. He was hoping Toho was going to pretty much deny the design, and they went, I like this unique look to Godzilla. This is something different. You know, we'll go back to making him fat Godzilla later on. let's try this. And he just went, fuck, like, okay. And they made a big deal. They did this, I guess, according to Roland Emmerich, it was a deal that he had never had before in any other movie he's ever signed on to do. Like, Toho literally pretty much gave him whatever he wanted to do. And he just kind of was like, well, I guess we're doing this. And there we go.
I think it was more Sony that let him have full creative control because of how massive a success Independence Day was. I think Toho was sweating.
Yeah.
They gave him like a list of like stipulations and suggestions for how Godzilla should look and act, and they just spat in the face of the Toho Corporation by completely ignoring all of that. So I mean, anyway,
that makes a lot more sense. I think Toho did though approve a little bit of, like, they saw the design and were like, sure, let's try something different. But yeah, I agree.
Design's not the problem.
No, it's not.
Emmerich's only thing that when he told the designer, whose name is
Totopoulos,
the only thing that he was told is make sure it looks like it can run a lot.
He said he wanted it to be the fastest Godzilla ever put on screen.
The exact opposite of Godzilla. Godzilla never runs.
It's the exact opposite.
Everything. Like,
it's the exact opposite. I'm not against like a sleeker, more agile design. Like, I think that's kind of a cool approach. But it's not Godzilla. It's not Godzilla.
And if you do decide to go with sleeker design, please don't make him fucking play soccer. Like that one time in Godzilla Final Wars, don't do that shit. That was a horrible idea.
What about that one time? What about that one time when he played basketball with Charles Barkley?
But he was even the heavy-thighed version at that point. The thigh Godzilla. Dude, it was
true.
Dude, listen, have you ever read those comics? Godzilla versus Charles Barkley?
Sure.
And Godzilla versus Zero Hero? Yes. Dark Horse, man.
So when they were designing the creature, they wanted it to look more like an animal than a monster. So that's why Godzilla looks like an iguana. That's literally what they modeled him after. And they designed his face off of Shere Khan from the 1967 Jungle Book. That's why his face looks the way it does.
I said he has Jay Leno chin going on. Like, what? Like, what was that?
I'll say this from side profile, and I've been known to love this design. I do love the design. I'm a huge fan of the design. From the side, it looks menacing. I love the side view. From the front, it looks a little bit weird and derpy.
He looks a little derpy when you look at him straight on. You're just
like a bull terrier.
Yeah.
He's got that, the underbite.
Bull terriers. I got Spuds McKenzie sitting right behind me over here. Maybe that's why.
Yeah.
You just look at him and you just know someone dropped him on his head at some point. You're just like, oh, buddy, what happened?
So the screenplay was done by Dean Devlin and Roland Emmerich. Dean Devlin, of course, has been a writing partner with Roland Emmerich since his first American film, right, was Stargate back in 94, and then he would do Independence Day in 96, and then it was this, and then of course Roland Emmerich is well known for his I love destroying planet Earth any which way I can. The Day After Tomorrow, 2012, and then his latest whatever that was, Moonfall, that came out last year. But it was also written by Roland Emmerich and Dean Devlin, but Terry Rossio and Ted Elliott have writing credits, even though their script was completely
4 people on the story, right?
Thrown in the trash.
Yeah.
We talked about Ted Elliott and Terry Rossio before because they wrote the Pirates of the Caribbean trilogy, and I believe one of them went on to write the 4th one as well. So they went on to write some pretty decent movies down the road. But when TriStar got the rights to Godzilla in 1992, I read this fact and I went, there is no way. Do you want to know who the first person to write a treatment for this movie was? Clive Barker. Clive Barker wrote a treatment for Godzilla after the rights were bought, and they took it. And what do you think they said about Clive Barker's script?
A little too dark, a little too sexual.
Well, they didn't say anything about sexual, but
why does Godzilla have a boner? I don't understand this. I'm confused.
No, they said it was too dark, and that's when they gave it to Ted Elliott and Terry Rossio. And then but that was back when Jan de Bont was on to direct it, which he actually was going to he wanted Helen Hunt and Bill Paxton to be in Godzilla. But then when he left the project, he ended up he left the project to do Twister, and he got his dream cast anyways.
Now, my question to you is, where does Stan Winston come into all this? Because his designs are legendary and they're amazing. And
you can see from...
No, I was going to say, I just went through and looked at all of those again, like tonight before we recorded, because there's got to be context in like what was before, what led to where we got in 98. And the Winston stuff is fantastic, because I tried to look up and find the effects company that worked on the design of Godzilla and built all the animatronics and all that. I could not find it for the life of me.
Yeah, I didn't even.
It's amazing work, and I'm sure we'll get to that animatronic and the full size stuff that they did. But it's insane to think that Stan Winston's team and himself, he actually like came up with the idea for like a more like a dinosaur-like Godzilla, and it's amazing. And I'm just curious if you knew if that connected to that previous version or not, because I couldn't find anything about that.
So the Winston stuff was connected to when Jan de Bont was on to do the film, because it was actually going to be Godzilla versus the Griffin. It was going to be like this two monster big, just it's a Godzilla movie. So it was two monsters fighting, and they kind of
imagine that.
Yeah.
Well, hey, you gotta have it, dude. It's part of it's par for the course, mostly.
But yeah,
well, you can see like photos of the maquette of the Godzilla design that Stan Winston did. And while it was its own kind of distinct interpretation, it was still recognizable as Godzilla. I will never forget what they took from us. Roland Emmerich and Dean Devlin got their grubby mitts on Godzilla, and we could have had a proper American Godzilla movie. But who knows if that would have been good? But it would have been better than this, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
Oh, I think ultimately it was just they couldn't get a script off the ground, and it got to the point where it was just so long from when they initially signed Jan de Bont, and I think people just wanted to go do other things. They didn't want to be attached to this anymore. So, Jan de Bont goes off and does Twister. He does Speed 2. Not that we need to talk too much into that. And so it was, it was a whole roller coaster of just like directors and ideas and stuff. Because I know that Tim Burton was asked to direct this at one point, which, would have been very interesting to see a Tim Burton Godzilla film.
He would have done miniatures. He would have had guys.
It would have been stop motion.
During that period. Oh, for sure. During that period, he would not have been like, there'd be like very little CGI. It would have been very practical.
I guess James Cameron was approached. He immediately turned it down. I know we've talked about him enough on this show. And even Sam Raimi was asked to come aboard.
I do want to make mention of something. The little mannequin you were talking about earlier was the one that literally looks like a T-Rex with the spines on its back, right? Is that the gun you guys are talking about?
Believe so.
I think.
Okay, so that was tied to an earlier one from 1983. This is called Godzilla King of the Monsters 3D. This is not due to the Griffin. The Griffin one was around 94, 96. That actually was done by, funny enough, Steve Miner was supposed to direct that.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
Very early on, Friday the 13th album.
Yeah, right after Friday the 13th Part 3, he was going to direct that. And it was written by Fred Decker, which he did what? Monster Squad. And then the art was actually done by a known, he was really just a lot of paleo works. William Stout. Fred, to my knowledge, Stan Winston didn't actually make that mannequin. It was based on his original work, and he was supposed to make them.
I thought the Winston stuff came in the 90s.
Well, the Winston stuff could have, but if they were talking about the original T-Rex one, that looks literally like a T-Rex.
Okay. They've been talking about different things.
Yeah, we're talking about two different things.
Okay, just making sure. I hadn't seen the props for that, but I just want to make mention of the 83 film, which
would have loved to have seen that too.
Yeah, which would have been interesting because it was all stop motion. Stan Winston was supposed to be involved in that one too. There's going to be mannequins and animatronics and all that shit back in 83, but you know how that went.
So
would have been interesting though.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Dean Devlin, as we stated before, Roland Emmerich wasn't a fan of Godzilla. He didn't want to do this. Dean Devlin was the opposite. He stated that he had been a fan of Godzilla since he was a kid. He defended this film until I think less than 10 years ago. He went on and pretty much admitted, yeah, it didn't do well. We could have done a lot more. We could have done different things, but we felt at the time we were making a good movie. Dean Devlin literally compared this Godzilla to the Japanese ones as it's like Tim Burton's Batman to Adam West's Batman.
No.
And I'm like, Dean.
No.
What?
He's got to be high as fuck, dude.
Like, how? Yeah. And as you know, this Godzilla his alternate name is Zilla or Gino, which is just Godzilla in name only. We've talked about that in our prior Godzilla episodes. Because Godzilla fans hated this. They hated the design. They hated the story. And it was just, they just felt it was a piss poor attempt it was the United States literally taking something that is beloved and just literally just destroying it. And
they're gatekeeping everything.
Well, gatekeep the fuck out of it.
Yeah.
No, he needs to be thick boy all the
Yeah,
time.
he does. Always.
I mean,
always.
I like Thick Boy Godzilla.
He doesn't. He'd be comfortable.
But to be honest, if you look at like all the other directors that they had brought on or that they had asked to be on, I feel it would have came out better because I feel even like looking at some of the directors that they asked, they were all fans of Godzilla. So you would have gotten a lot more respect for it. Where Roland Emmerich, listen, I watched a lot of behind the scenes for this movie and like Roland Emmerich directing and stuff, and he looked like he was having a good time, but going into it, you just know he wasn't aiming for a Godzilla movie. He wasn't making a Godzilla movie. He was just making I get to destroy New York City with a big giant monster. And he just didn't care. And it sucks. Even as I said, even though I love this movie, it just sucks that like listening or reading articles and interviews with Roland Emmerich, that it took so long for him to just be like, yeah, we fucked up. I should have never did this. I should have never took the job. I knew a couple weeks into taking the job that I didn't want to be here and I should have just walked away. But I said, screw it. And I did it. And I regret it to this day, which who knows if he means that or not. But
well, this is, oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, please.
I was gonna say, this gives me vibes of the Freddy versus Jason. So when you bring in a guy that's never seen these movies, doesn't know anything about them, for the most part. And
difference being that Freddy versus Jason is awesome, and this movie is not.
Listen. Even more so, the guy that did the Nightmare remake didn't like it at all, and they begged him to do it, and he still did that. But I will dare say this, though. Regardless if Emmerich didn't want to make this movie, he made it, and it's still one of his best movies.
Well, yes, but that's really saying something about his filmography.
It's still one of his best movies, so you can say whatever you want.
My contempt for this movie matches the contempt that Roland Emmerich and Dean Devlin had for the institution of Godzilla. And for that matter, the audience. They proudly said in interviews that they had no interest in doing a Godzilla film to begin with. And Emmerich didn't want to have Godzilla fight another monster because he, quote, didn't like that. Which just goes to show that he was the exact wrong choice to helm this project, and also that he has no concept of the entire appeal of these movies.
Yep.
The film is dedicated in memory to Godzilla creator Tomoyuki Tanaka. I can think of no greater insult to his memory than this movie.
Yeah.
No longer is Godzilla like this awesome and destructive force of nature. No longer is he a poetic representation of the devastation left in the wake of Hiroshima and the Nagasaki bombings. No longer does he have any dignity whatsoever. Now, in the words of Matthew Broderick in this movie, he's just an animal.
Listen, I will finish that, or I'll start it. Yeah, he's not some enemy trying to evade you. He's just an animal. That struck me pretty hard when I was rewatching it tonight, because tonight I actually paid attention to the dialogue for the first time ever. Last time we watched this movie, Loysauce, I'm pretty positive that I was a full bottle under. A full bottle under.
Well, just to build off what you said, Loy, I'm usually one that's up for interpretations, especially for Godzilla and any long-running franchise. I'm like, just fine. Do something different, right? But keep your core values. All right? That's what you need. And I think the biggest issue with this movie is that a lot of that is stripped away, like you talked about. There's key pieces of this character that exist. They're like, we're just going to take these out and just do something different. It's literally no different than, I don't remember, I've heard stories about that Superman movie they were supposed to do. It's like, let's just take Superman's powers away and make a movie about that. Like, why?
Is that the Nick Cage one?
Superman lives.
Yeah, that's literally the same thing. That's what I was getting at with the
Superman doesn't fly in this version. Yeah,
that's
It's not Superman.
that's what I was
Take
getting
away his suit. Don't give him those trunks. No S on his chest.
Even if the movie didn't desecrate the name of Godzilla and were called something like, for example, the Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, this would still be an abject failure because it's a brain-dead script with some of the most remarkably annoying characters in cinematic history. I'm sorry, I'm getting really angry and like ahead of myself.
This is the reason why I made you listen. You've been chomping at the bit to talk about this movie your entire
years,
life, and I just knew it. That's why I was
glad
like,
we could be the show to let
here
loose.
Please, we gotta dissect this thing. So I'm gonna let you take it.
Hence the name of the fucking podcast.
No, that's not why we named it.
Maybe I don't know. It used to.
Yeah, I'm like, do we actually do what the name of our podcast is? Sometimes
we kind of fiddle around with it. We make a hole. We stick our finger in it. It's fine.
It's like it's that craft project that you start really strong in the beginning, and then you just kind of like,
fuck it.
Maybe I'll just go.
Do you ever just show up one night
project.
and refuse and say, "Listen, this go against my moral values. I will not dissect this film."
Yes,
well,
absolutely.
So we tell ourselves we don't review movies. We just talk about them because I don't know. Take it.
It's true. It's true though.
In that case, I'll try to refrain.
You say whatever you want. You say whatever you want.
Listen, I'm not going to cover for you. Please don't cover for me.
I should just say we're the ones that's usually out in left field playing with the flowers. We're just hey.
Parker's like, I'm on the script. Like, yeah, well, all this bullshit happened, and then we end up like going off course entirely and fucking.
Sometimes I just want to throw my notebook.
You should see his face sometimes when we get started talking on stuff. He's like, okay.
So.
And then I feel bad, and then I don't feel bad.
Let's go through the cast of this wonderful movie.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We got Ferris Bueller himself, Matthew Broderick. We have Jean Reno.
Yes.
We have Maria Patillo, who literally the only thing I know her from is this movie and an episode of Friends.
Yes.
That's about it.
We have Hank Azaria, who, he's also a Friends alum, and he is many voices of The Simpsons.
Yes.
You
hear a lot of Mo in this movie.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. Well, the craziest thing is that he is not the only Simpsons alum in this movie. We have Harry Shearer, who plays what's his name, Kamen. He's he plays Principal Skinner, right? That's one of his voices he does in Simpsons.
I need a blooper reel of him being Kent Brockman.
Yeah.
Are
you talking about Hank Azaria?
Yes, like no.
Henry Shearer.
Henry Shearer.
Oh.
He's doing his
news
cover his news report.
Oh right, yes.
I need him to be say this is Kent Brockman. I need it.
Yes.
It's got to exist somewhere.
And funny enough, I don't want to keep mentioning Friends, but I love Friends, and I've made it well known on the show. I love Friends.
He's also really good friends with my daughter. It's like she's made me watch that series a fucking 1,000 times.
I still watch it every single day. If it's always on some network, and it's one of those things where if I'm editing an episode, I can throw it on. I don't have to pay attention the whole time, but I love Friends. But he was also in an episode of Friends. Like, I feel like so many people in this movie were in Friends. They were in The Simpsons. Oh, so good.
They were very popular shows at the time.
We're talking about the cast, though.
Yeah.
I have to kind of question this because Emmerich just came off from a massive fucking worldwide hit with Independence Day. You had Jeff Goldblum. You had Bill Pullman. You had Will Smith, who was the biggest star in the world at that time.
Yeah.
And then you go to like Matthew Broderick.
Yeah.
And then, no offense to the rest of the cast, but a bunch of no-namers.
Yeah.
For real.
Comparatively.
Like, I mean, Broderick was the only actual star of the movie. And possibly could there just be him like spatting in the face of, whatever this was supposed to be? Because at this point in time, he probably could have got anyone that he wanted to be in a new Godzilla movie.
Yeah.
This is following the year of the Lost World. I mean, big, dumb monster movies were in again.
Fuck
and
yeah, dude.
To me, it's just wild that we have Matthew Broderick and then what is, in my opinion, a pretty weak cast overall. I mean, Jean Reno is different. He's iconic for a lot of different reasons. But when you look at the rest of the cast, you're like, who the fuck are these people? Like
at the time, yes.
Jean Reno and Hank Azaria, I think, are the only two actors who escaped this film with any sort of dignity intact.
Yeah.
Matthew Broderick's not a bad choice as kind of like the nerdy scientist character, but like the way that the character is written is just pathetic, and he was clearly not given good direction.
No, he's super sleepy in some of his scenes. Like, what the fuck are you doing, dude?
You can tell he's looking at the camera.
It's like long pauses. He's like forgot his line. He's like,
is this the way I'm supposed to say this?
It's
what's
pregnant.
the tone
You're like,
here?
Matthew,
That's
wake
good
up.
enough. That's good. That's good. That's good.
But yeah, Jean
You feel
Reno,
like
he came off of Leon the Professional. That was like his big thing. I think that's probably a pretty big reason why he probably got a role in this. But like, I'm looking at like, who's Maria Patillo? Like, who is she? Where did
she's
she
trying
come
her
from?
best?
Who's
trying her best?
Who is she? She's terrible. That's who she is. Okay,
I would have booted her out.
100% agree.
She was not needed.
It's honestly not her fault though, because I'll let you guys in on this. My wife Danielle had never seen this movie before. And I always like to judge a lot of what I'm feeling off of her perspective, especially when she's just like a nonchalant, casual moviegoer. And she's like, this girl sucks. She shouldn't be in the movie. None of her dialogue is interesting. I don't like her character. Nothing about this character is cool or sexy or attractive or anything that she could be. She's just there.
It's like I wrote that in my plot notes.
We commented that a couple of times. Like,
it's not even her fault, but at the same time, she's just not good playing that either.
I feel bad for her because she's clearly trying, but I think she's trying too hard. She's like constantly like flexing her eyebrows and up and down and like making exaggerated motions with her mouth, and like some of her line reads, like when Charles Kamen is on the TV talking about like the discovery of the creature or whatever, and he calls the creature Godzilla. She goes, "I don't believe it," and it sounds like it sounds like she's going, "Oh, brother."
Yeah,
and then
she say like, "It's Gojira, you idiot."
Yeah, she says, "It's Gojira, you moron," and I'm like, "It's not. It's Gojira. It's Gojira. Like you're not even saying it right."
I don't even give a fuck, dude.
No, I said when she first saw whatever Papadopoulos on
Nick.
the TV, she's just like,
"Oh my god."
And I'm like, you look like you're staring at a blank screen.
From 8 years ago, and
like,
I left you and never called you or told you.
I said the first time she saw him, I'm like, oh, she just saw the guy with no shirt on walking past the
Possibly one of the worst like forced relationships I've ever seen on film. It's just so every time you see it, you're like, they don't have any chemistry. It is just bland. It's like two pieces of Play-Doh just hitting each other.
You said it perfectly. When Broderick's looking at her, I swear to God, he's not looking at a cue card. He's looking past her to be like, I need to find motivation here because I can't look at this girl in the face.
I think Broderick wants to have sex with Godzilla more than he wants to have sex with Audrey.
Why wouldn't he?
Well, there's all this talk about pregnancy tests and eggs and shit.
They share a lot of like, meaningful, loving glances.
He loves these earthworms that are squirming around and how they reproduce and they're radioactive. We don't know his sex life. We don't know what happened in between the time that she left him 8 years ago. And we know, based on the dialogue, he's still fucking mad because she asks him, are you still mad? And he's just like, yeah. You know what?
I am kind of mad.
I'm kind of mad.
He's down bad though, because he still has her pictures in his briefcase.
They try to get you to go, hey, he still cares, and you're like, I don't care.
And she's like, it's been long enough, it's been 8 years, and it's like, that's not
Listen,
a
if
long
she was
time.
about to be like, do you want to go in that phone booth right now and I'll drop down to my knees, I'd be like, all right, 8 years gone, forgotten.
I forgive you.
Here's the thing. Audrey is not likable. She left without a phone call or a letter. She impersonates a reporter. She steals evidence. She lies to Nick and takes advantage of him to advance her career. And then when Nick tries to hold her feet to the fire, put her in her place, she goes, I'm sorry you feel that way. I mean, like, what an odious character. If they were trying to make her sympathetic, they failed miserably.
Like, even though, like, ultimately, spoiler alert, they end up saving the day, this woman has such a fucking, like, had to be taken to court, federal court for the crime of stealing top secret documents.
She stole stuff.
That video, I don't know.
It just it says top secret written on it.
And she's all like, is this my fault? And I'm like, fuck yeah, it's your fault.
How is it not? And then they try to blame fucking Hank Azaria. He's like, just a camera dude.
Yeah.
Like, what?
All right.
The whole scene where they're sitting there eating, though, like, I thought she was with him. Like, where they're eating.
You thought she was with Animal?
Yeah. Until
I'm married to you.
Lucy.
What is it?
Lucy.
Yeah. Says that something about he's married to her, and I was like, oh, well,
A character I would have rather seen for the majority of this movie. Other than Audrey.
Exactly. I love
anything
her.
else.
Yeah.
I love her
else.
slur, her Italian slurs. I love it.
God. I was like, that's a slur. I was like, yeah.
And she says retard as well. Like, I know it was 1998, but I'm like, oof. Like,
Listen, Loysauce, Danielle calls me that every single day. So
Just
I don't know.
Why do we
I mean,
always seem
she's
to
just
find
not a
movies
nice
where
character.
a character says that word?
when she said it on screen, I go, look, honey,
me.
people use that word that you use towards me in a movie. And she just laughed.
It is true.
So back to the cast. We have Kevin Dunn as Colonel Hicks. Kevin Dunn, he did things after this. He did Almost Heroes the same year.
I don't even know what that is.
The last Chris Farley movie. Had Chris Farley and Friends alum Matthew Perry.
There's the connection.
Yeah. Yep. And he plays a character who is nowhere near the same as this one. I love Kevin Dunn though. He was one of my favorite parts of the early Transformers movies.
Yes.
I could not stand Shia LaBeouf, and I was like, I like his dad way more.
I just like him in Ghostbusters too, when he's the guy that comes on to Peter Venkman's show and he tells him that he has a book about when the world's going to end.
I need to watch Ghostbusters 2 again.
No.
Yes. Yeah, it's better. You can admit this. It's better than this movie.
Oh, absolutely.
It doesn't.
But again, the bar is not high. The bar is on the floor.
It doesn't have technically has a kaiju Statue of Liberty in it though.
Technically, yes,
Yeah,
but
or maybe how would you classify? Would she technically be a mecha?
possessed?
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway,
that's a whole other episode.
But the big question is here: is this movie better than Ghostbusters 2016?
Yes, 100%.
No, absolutely
not. Even I'll admit that. No.
Yes.
We're done.
I would rather watch Ghostbusters 2016 5 times over than watch.
Here's what I'll say real quick.
Completed.
Writing, performances, acting. There it is right there.
Shit, I need more alcohol for that one.
If you want to know how we all thought of Ghostbusters 2016, go back to episode whatever it was when we covered. It's the only Ghostbusters movie we've covered, other than we did a little Afterlife episode when it came out.
I got physically
I didn't
mad
think there was
with
any.
that
I didn't
one.
think there was any writing in that movie at all. I think it was just improvised, and then people just
Cue card. It's all cue cards. It's all written. Like,
all right.
hey,
Not even cue cards. Just they started rolling the cameras, and it's like just talk.
That's
just
the whole
talk.
movie.
Or if not talk, then dance. There's like 5 dance sequences in the movie. Anyway.
We have Arabella Field, who played Lucy. We have Vicki Lewis, who played Dr. Elsie Chapman. The only thing I remember Vicki Lewis in was she played Lee Evans' wife in Mouse Hunt, which came out which came out in 1998. So she was also in 2 movies in 1998.
Classic movie.
Yes, so
She
good.
is
Gosh, she is Flo in Finding Nemo. Oh my gosh.
She is dripping wet for Nick.
Oh yeah,
God,
Absolutely ravenous.
You couldn't even do this today.
You can see the snail trail behind her.
I mean,
Like,
like,
it's
any
just-
personal questions did she ask him? And I was like, wow, that's getting deep there.
Have a
She wants to get
husband
deep
or
with him.
boyfriend? Yeah. That's a trait that never pays off. I mean, she calls him cute, and then her character just kind of disappears from the movie. And same with like Dr. Craven. He has a summer cold,
yeah,
and that's
doesn't
his
exist in
thing.
this
Hey,
movie.
he's in the animated series, and that's all
Have
it
a summer
matters.
cold.
So is Kevin Dunn.
The best thing about this movie is that it gave us Godzilla the animated series,
Exactly.
which rules. So
Yes, it does.
It's good stuff.
I'll say this much though: he got a part in a Godzilla movie.
He did. I
Even
wish I had
if
a part in a
if the
Godzilla
most
movie.
memorable part is him sneezing.
that could have been Wayne
and-
Knight. That could have been anyone.
Oh, was Wayne Knight? That'd been awesome.
Instead, it's some guy.
That's because they got cheap
Yeah, but
on him. Don't get cheap on me,
Loysauce-
Dodson.
That some guy got meaning in his life because he got that role in this movie.
Some guy.
I feel bad. I'm sure he's
You
a
should
wonderful
feel
person.
bad, damn it. He's gonna come to one of our screenings at Alamo Draft House, and he's gonna be like,
We screen Godzilla 1998.
"You
for
know
all
I'm
of
going
12
to.
people.
I already
I'll show up.
proclaimed it. I already
I'll show up.
proclaimed it's
You
gonna
let
happen.
us know, and we will be there.
Okay.
Listen, I showed fucking Spawn, and you saw how many people showed up to that. I'm gonna show this too.
Fuck yes, dude.
Get people
Should.
wasted. They'll have a great fucking time.
Hey, I don't even need to
Yeah.
be wasted to have a great time watching this movie.
Well,
Oh my
I'll
god,
just shut the fuck
I don't
up.
think I've ever been wasted watching this movie. I love it.
First time for everything.
Well,
sometimes movies are better
You'll like
when
it
you
even
had
more,
alcohol.
Parker. You'll like it even more.
I would
Yeah.
love it on the big screen. We have Michael Lerner as Mayor Ebert. We have Laurie Goldman as his assistant Gene. If you didn't realize it was a play on Roger, or is it Roger Ebert? Why I can never fucking remember his name.
Because that's what I said when they introduced him. I
So it's a
was
play
like,
on Siskel and
"Wait,
Ebert.
Siskel and Ebert? I
Yeah,
was like, wait a minute.
and to be honest,
Yeah.
it took me a long time before I even realized that was a thing because I never watched any of their.
My two idols. They're the
Big
reason why I
Hairy-
review movies today.
Yeah, they're so good.
The filmmakers thought they were being clever and cute by putting Roger and Ebert, Siskel and Ebert in the movie. I guess it's because they were trying to like dig at them a little because Siskel and Ebert gave thumbs down to both Stargate and Independence Day.
Mhm.
But I love the fact that
It's okay to be wrong.
he put them in the movie, and then didn't have Godzilla kill them or squash them or crush them or step on them.
They're
anything.
not like the lawyer in Jurassic Park or anything.
Yeah.
They're
No
still
one-
alive.
No one dies in this movie, but if it was anyone, it should have been the critics who gave bad reviews to their movies, and they fucked that up.
Yeah,
Like that's the easiest thing in the world to possibly pay off for your movie, and they didn't even rise to the occasion. In fact, when they reviewed Godzilla on the show, and poor Gene Siskel was actually in the hospital because of his brain tumor, God rest him, they were talking about the fact that, like, why not have Godzilla kill us in the
Right.
movie? You're going to bother to include us? Like, be petty and include us in your movie and then not even
Do
anything
something
with it? Yeah, do anything. Godzilla does nothing in this movie that's even remotely destructive or fun.
Now, we know it's actually not Godzilla. I need to come out because I've been corrected on this for so many years. You guys are going to tell me but I'm sure Dan's going to agree with me. Gino,
Yeah.
Yes.
Godzilla
Zilla.
in name only, or
Yes.
just Zilla.
Took the god out of Godzilla, yes. I think you were in the John when we were talking about this.
Oh,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
believe you were.
Yeah, he didn't.
Okay.
He didn't destruct enough.
Okay, so when I'm in the John again, make sure to remind me of what I missed.
it's
I thought
okay.
you said you knew.
It's okay.
You said you knew.
You always know.
Just flow right
No,
in.
the crazy thing is Toho considers this canon.
It is. It's a Godzilla movie. Well, not canon.
Sure.
But it's a Godzilla
Well,
movie.
they
There is
consider it
some
a
canon.
legitimate Godzilla movie.
Yeah.
There is
Yeah.
some canon. Godzilla's canonicity went out the shitter after.
No,
Not
yeah.
even
Well, it's also because
it's
they
not
made money
canon.
off the movie. So if they made money off the movie, they're not going to say
Also,
Too many bad things about
whenever Toho brings up this movie, it's to shit on it. Like,
It's true facts.
I mean, in Giant Monsters All Out Attack, I think it is, when they reference the events of this movie, it's like they thought it was Godzilla, but that was just another creature.
Yep.
And then in Godzilla Final Wars, Gino gets his ass fucking beat in about 20 seconds by the real Godzilla.
It was great, though. It was great. I
one of the
love
few good
Final
parts
Wars.
of that fucking
He
movie.
does not.
All right. Anyway,
It's a mess, but it's fun. It's
It's a
way
fucking
more fun
mess.
than this movie.
This what's his face walks out. No, I can't think of his name right now. I see his face.
Which one? The
That
American actor?
No, that plays Godzilla. Japanese actor
What about him?
walked out.
Yes,
while
the
watching
Godzilla,
this.
the guy
it's-
who was
it's-
Godzilla from 85 to 95 walked out of this and pretty much
Yes.
stated that it was a performance,
Jesus
it was like a movie he had done before that was really panned. He said, I had more fun being in that movie than watching this.
Kenpachiro Satsuma. It was probably when he was kidnapped to make Pulgasari for North Korea. He was literally
What?
fucking kidnapped to make that movie.
He says that something was. Oh, where is it?
I've always heard
I
the quote
had
was,
it.
"This is not." He was quoted as saying, "This is not Godzilla," and walked out.
And no,
of the theater.
and he
That's what I'd heard.
The crazy
Yeah.
thing is that TriStar and Sony pretty much saw this movie 2 weeks before it came out and knew that it was going to be a bomb.
because he says Pulgasari was more enjoyable.
He was fucking abducted to make that movie. He was told it was him and somebody else from Toho were brought in to essentially offer advice or whatever, or check out the set for the film or whatever, and they just didn't let him leave. Like, you're making this movie. End of story.
You're just
Like,
gonna.
oh, okay. And I haven't
man.
seen that movie, and it's not that great. So this is way better than fucking Pulgasari. So just throwing it out there.
So
Can't be any worse than Parker's favorite person, director.
What, Tim Burton?
No,
No, not Hydra.
not even watching the movie.
oh, you're talking about Paul W.S. Anderson?
no,
Fuck him.
Spielberg would not watch this movie.
Oh yes,
Spielberg?
he pretty much he tried to talk Roland Emmerich out of directing this movie, and then when he took the job, knowing Roland Emmerich's thoughts on Godzilla, he pretty much was like, I can't. I want to save all the great memories of growing up watching Godzilla. I don't want to have it tainted by whatever the hell this is. And I was like,
And just
oh
think,
man, my
this
hero.
Is the same guy. This is the same guy that produced all the Jurassic World sequels.
And all the Transformers movies.
Steven, where were you during those conversations and meetings?
He was collecting
drinking.
checks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Locus. He was doing the John Carpenter.
Oh my God.
Check, please.
Money. Yeah, he held his hand out, got the money. He's like,
Check
"I'm
floated
just
down.
gonna-"
Yeah. I love that quote from John Carpenter. He's like, I don't give a shit what they do with Michael
was-
Myers. I just like the
He'll
check
never
I
care.
get.
He'll never care.
Nope.
At this point, he's all about the money. He doesn't even give a shit what he does.
Listen, people say that money does not buy you happiness, but it buys you things that make
Dude,
you happy.
all he does is sit around and play video games.
I wanna
At
sit
his
around and
house.
play video
He's
games.
living his life.
I would, if
That's all he
I
does.
could make money just playing video games and just holding my hand out and getting money, I'd quit my job.
Well, usually for ladies, they just show their titties when they're playing games. But it's all
Oh, wow.
I'm just saying, it's a thing that happens.
That's a huge thing now. A
Yeah.
massive thing. Yeah.
Or just
I
Loysauce does it.
constantly wear t-shirts.
Yeah, he
and
does.
stuff.
Right? Lloyd, you flop your titties out. I'm like, this is how I make money.
Oh, absolutely. That's definitely a
There
thing.
you go. Fuck yeah,
Mhm.
dude. 100%.
Feet pictures will get you more.
That's fucking true.
all right. Glad we
Jeez.
got to this part of the show.
Hey, this is how this goes. This is how this shit goes.
It didn't
Why
work
are you
out.
still
We-
surprised
this-
at this
no
point?
It
joke.
didn't work out for me. It's okay.
No joke. This is the longest the show has ever gotten before we've gotten to the plot of the movie.
Oh no.
We are over an hour into this, and we haven't even touched the plot yet. So
And
this
Justin's already
strap
peed
in,
twice.
guys. Could this
Just
be the
saying.
longest episode in Dissect That Film history?
Listen, my bladder's gotten worse in the last 6
Hey.
months since I was on the show the last time, so it's gonna keep getting worse.
Just saying, I'm about to go too. But
We could take a break.
No.
We'll take it here. I got a couple more things we'll talk about, or we'll take a slight break, and which will be like the first ever time we've taken a break on the show, and then we'll get to the plot. How about that? You good with that?
you better hurry.
All right.
Just saying.
So
This mom bladder doesn't hold for anybody.
the music was done by David Arnold, who did the music for the other two Roland Emmerich films. This very much had a Batman Forever, Batman and Robin tone in some of the sections of the movie where I'm
Lost
like, is this
World.
the same composer? And then I looked it up. No, it wasn't. But it did have some of those elements.
Ain't no John Williams. He's trying to be. The
Yeah,
music,
some scenes, yeah.
The music, I think, is very unfitting because Godzilla, again, supposed to be this force of destruction, and the music, I think, is meant to fill you with like wonderment and like, oh, how majestic, and it's so incongruous with what's on screen. Anyway,
because when they're first fighting Zilla, I'm like, why the hell are they playing this happy ass music?
I know.
Like this is not what's supposed to be playing at this moment.
And it reminds me, like when all the vehicles are going there to do their stuff, like let's put this fish out for Godzilla, blah blah blah, and it's like playing the music. I was like, is this the fucking is this the engine military theme from Lost World? Like, is what it fucking sounds like in some of the beats. It's like, what are we listening to here?
We made mention that there was times where I was like, oh well, we've hit the Batman stage. And I'm like, I'm hearing Batman music.
It sounded like something you would hear from Batman Forever or Batman and Robin. It just
Listen,
had that
how dare either say anything? Elliot Goldenthal's scores for both those movies.
I love Batman Forever.
I know. I'm just saying.
I don't want to talk about Batman and Robin.
You should. Masterpiece of cinema, one of the best movies ever
We did a whole episode on it, okay? You can listen to me.
You won't put me in the cooler.
Chill, cool party.
He
for real,
is me.
I just think that the score for this movie, it starts off strong. I like the opening of the score with the opening credits and stuff, but overall, it doesn't seem to fit any movie at all. Like it doesn't really know what it's trying to do.
It's a bad score.
There you go. You took the words right out of my mouth. I don't have to describe anything any further.
It didn't match up very well.
No, listen, Justin, I wasn't disrespecting the scores from Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. I wasn't saying the entire score sounded like that. It was, you could tell he was taking elements from all these different films and just kind of like putting them together, and it just was a hot mess. It was a hot mess, and we didn't know what to do.
Yeah, he didn't know where he wanted to go with the music, so he's like, "Oh, I've heard this before."
I think. What we're trying to say here is. Yeah, he didn't know the tone.
No.
Whereas those two movies, they clearly did. There's a difference where a composer sits down and writing music and they're like, I don't know what this is supposed to be. Right. And that's something I'm sure we'll get to when we finally get to the actual review of the movie. Like,
we'll make it one day.
Something to be said. What is the tone for this movie supposed to be? Because the film is clearly confused itself.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a couple of times where I was like, this is not the right movie. Like, where are we going with this music? And I'm a big music person. So when it hit certain spots, I'm like, I've heard this before. And I'm like, this happy music should not be playing while they're fighting Godzilla. Right. That's not. But then there was times where they tried to do the march.
No, they don't.
They tried. No.
They tried to do a lot of things to appease Godzilla fans.
He didn't do it very well. I could hear it. Like he was trying. There was certain.
It was close.
They should have
right there.
Should have just put Ifukube's.
Yeah, he's still alive at this point. I'm pretty sure.
Exactly.
Let's fucking bring him in.
I mean, that's what Shin Godzilla. I mean, they pretty much the score for Shin Godzilla is just an OG theme from Godzilla, from the original Godzilla, right?
They use a lot of themes,
at some points, but they did have like a few of their own original, like Persecution of the Masses and stuff, which is
so good.
That'll make your dick hard, I promise you. You gotta be sitting down when that shit's rolling.
Listen, I had to be like, there's children present, put it away.
I can't. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry.
No.
So this was released May 20th, 1998. So 25 years ago, which is just wild to think about.
I was 11.
This is one of the longest Godzilla movies ever made. At 2 hours and 18 minutes.
This was kind of long, isn't it?
Damn. I didn't realize it was that long.
How long are you going to watch this movie for? Don't you have to record soon? She's like, is this movie over yet?
This has to be the longest Godzilla movie. Well, actually, I guess there's the MonsterVerse movies.
Until I think King of the Monsters. Because I think Godzilla, the 2014 Godzilla was a little over 2 hours.
Yeah.
Saris comes in. She's like, how much longer is this movie?
I was like, don't you dare shit on this iguana movie. Get out of here.
She tried so hard to watch it, and it got to a point.
I was like, it's
She's
Lucid
just like,
Bjorn.
bye.
It's like Baby's Day Out with an iguana. Come on.
I'll say this much though: my adult daughter and her adult boyfriend ate dinner and sat and watched it, and they were like, "What's this?" And I said, "It's the legendary, massive box office hit that was known as Godzilla from 1998." And she was like, "I don't see any Japanese people in this." I was like, "No, it's an American remake." And she just looked at me weird and walked out of the room.
Went, oh, this
You
can't
should have said
say-
anything. You
We'll
should have
say
said
this-
anything at all. Sorry.
Yeah. We
No,
had
no.
two that left.
I was just going to say this movie is entirely too long. And the longer the movie goes on, the worse it gets. And it goes on forever. There are a lot of common sense edits that I think they could have made. There are 2 scenes in which Godzilla attacks a fishing vessel. And there are 2 scenes in which helicopters chase Godzilla through the streets of New York. You only needed one of each of those scenes to get the point, and it would have saved the studio so much money, and it would have saved us a lot of time.
I mean,
My
how
favorite
many-
part is where Godzilla swims into a wall and then tries to doggy like dig. It's good times.
I mean, how many times
we'll
did they
get to
use
that.
the old man saying Godzilla over
Dude,
and over?
well, let's. Go
we're
finish,
gonna get
finish.
to it at some
Please
point,
finish.
guys.
Please finish.
This had a budget that just doesn't know where to stop. It started at like 100 million, then got up to 150 million, and I think it landed around 200 million with all of the ads and everything. That Dean Devlin went hardcore because like I stated earlier, TriStar and Sony saw the screening for this 2 weeks before it released and literally went, "Yeah, this is gonna bomb." And so
It didn't bomb though. It did not bomb. We'll talk about that.
It was under expectations for everybody.
Underperformed.
Yes,
They just-
underperformed.
Sometimes you blow a little early. It's fine.
Yeah.
we can bounce back.
Because it made
It's
it made a total of
Just gotta work up to it.
$379 million at the box office. It had one of the highest opening weekends in Japan of any Godzilla movie. But then
They were
in your face,
Yeah.
Loysauce, in your fucking face.
But then-
right there it is.
But then they
Right.
had the largest drop off of any Godzilla movie at the box office 1 week later.
I must have forgot about that.
It was called word of mouth. They went, "This isn't Godzilla. Don't see this movie." And yeah, so there you go.
The next week was Golden Week. They were all busy. They couldn't be bothered.
All right. Well, we are going to take a quick break. And then when we come back, we're finally almost an hour and 15 minutes into this episode, are going to finally talk about the plot of Godzilla 1998. So, hey,
Just
come on back. Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Brett from the future. I just want to mention a little podcast that I hold near and dear to my heart because it's amazing. And that is Verbal Diorama, hosted by the amazing M. It's a podcast that breaks down and looks at the history of the movies you know and the movies that you don't. And she did an amazing episode on Godzilla 98. And I forgot to mention it during the episode, which kind of sucks, but that's why we're here and that's why I can do things after the fact. So I want to shout out Verbal Diorama. Make sure to look her up on all of the podcast services and make sure to follow her on Instagram, on X/Twitter, whatever you want to call it now. And yeah, Verbal Diorama. It's a fantastic podcast, and make sure to check out her Godzilla 98 episode because it's fantastic. And it gives you a lot more history about this movie that maybe we forgot to mention. So check it out, and back to the show.
Are we ready to say goodbye to 1997? Are you ready, New York City? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5.
(1998), the year of Godzilla.
And we're back. And I just want to mention, since Justin mentioned it while we were on our break, but today is National Cinema Day, at least the day we're recording, not the day you're all going to be listening to this. So, Justin made the sacrifice of not going out and seeing a movie on National Cinema Day. and said he watched Godzilla 98 to be on this show, and that is just such an honor.
At home on 4K Ultra.
He stayed in to watch this.
Taking that bullet just for us.
The only way to watch it.
I think it was a good thing that you stayed home. I mean, as someone who worked today at a movie theater and saw how swamped the theaters were and how hard our staff was working to pick up the slack. I mean, you saved our staff a little
Chelsea,
bit.
was it $4? Was it $4 to get into the theater at Alamo Draft
It was
House?
$4.
$4.
Well, our cinema's closed.
I'm talking like a real New Yorker here. Hey, I'm
Hey,
like
just like in this movie.
I'm like Hank Azaria in this movie.
Listen,
It's so hard.
our local cinema was $5 all the time.
And they closed down at the beginning of
And they
last
just
month.
closed.
Or this month.
Oh, that's sad to hear.
I used to work. That's where I learned to thread film.
We hate to see theaters closing.
Yeah,
I don't know how many times I watched you thread film.
It's good times. It's fun.
All
it's
right.
badass.
Well,
Still
here.
couldn't find the hole.
Now no one knows that art.
Nope. All right. Are we ready for the real gem of the episode?
But before we do that, let's digress for 30 or 40 minutes before we actually talk about the movie.
All right.
Go ahead.
Let's get into the plot of Godzilla 1998 because it's a good
Sorry.
one.
Sorry,
Bumblebee tuna.
sorry.
So
I have
this-
people that feed into my left field tangent.
So this movie opens in the French Polynesian islands. There's nuclear testing going on. We get like the cool like sepia tone.
Nuclear?
Nuclear?
Nuclear.
Nuclear?
The E is silent.
Nuclear?
There we go.
I got somebody cray. I can't talk to begin with, so thanks. I don't
You
know
got
where to
this.
go.
You're
I don't
good.
know how I know where to go from here.
I mean, we
feel
have
like
to
that
bring
word
in
is
all
used
the
a lot.
Simpsons. We have to bring in all the Simpsons references now.
So we see an iguana and we go, is that going to be Godzilla? Is that Godzilla before he gets mutated? How long from this moment until we see Godzilla did it take for him to mutate into this? I want to know. And then
Early
we,
in the 50s.
you think
It's
that's
less
what
than
this
15
takes?
minutes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then we get a really like dramatic zoom in on an egg. And you're like, oh, I was waiting for it to hatch. But of course we get that in the final shot.
But which iguana is it, though? I want to know specifically because it showed like 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 iguanas. Which iguana is Godzilla?
I need to know
He's
which
a-
one has the
So
chin.
he is based on a Galapagos iguana, like black
Which you-
iguana, I think it was.
You want true fact? You want to see? I actually researched all this because I'm.
So what in the
boring.
fuck? They didn't even show the actual iguana that is Godzilla then in the opening?
I think it's just the egg. It's got to be the egg.
Then why
So-
even show those other iguanas are just imposters? Get them
Well,
the fuck
the
outta
other
here.
thing they show aren't even all iguanas.
Yeah.
There's like fucking bearded dragons and shit that they show too. I'm like, what is this?
a monitor lizard there.
So here's I was researching this interesting fact. French Polynesia is about 3,500 miles from the Galapagos, which is the only place in the world where marine iguanas fucking live. They do not live in French Polynesia. So accounting for.
If we're gonna go and litigate
I'm
every
just
single
saying.
thing that doesn't make sense in this movie, we're going to be here for a while.
Well, then fucking strap in, boys, 'cause this is what we're doing tonight.
We're gonna be here till tomorrow.
I just wanted to point it out so people know when they listen to this bullshit
Loysauce is in
podcast.
control of this podcast. We listen to Loysauce.
It's like,
I'm not backing down.
It's like
from
we're
this.
gonna be here for days, guys. We need to move on. All right, we meet Nick to Oh no,
Haven't
wait.
even made it past the first shot of the movie yet.
We did. We had to get the iguana egg.
We see is this a Japanese fishing boat? I'm guessing this
Yes.
is a Japanese fishing boat. Okay, it gets attacked.
But is
You
it
can
really
tell.
Japanese? No, I
No,
can't tell.
You can tell it's Japanese because they're watching sumo wrestling and eating ramen.
That's right.
Oh,
That's
okay.
right. That's how we know.
Yep.
this
That
was
makes
before
sense.
we turned the subtitles on.
To be honest, I really like
Closed
this attack
captioning.
scene. I like the practical claws coming through the ship. I like the tail taking out the bridge. I like this
Yeah,
whole
it's cool
scene.
stuff.
Really cool. Like first appear. You don't see a full appearance of Godzilla yet, but it's a cool like first little tidbit you get of him. And then we meet the best character in the movie, Nick
No.
Tatopoulos. No, Nick Tatopoulos. He's singing in the rain as he is collecting very large earthworms in Chernobyl. And
He's
this scene
literally
goes
singing
on
in the
for
rain.
way too long. He sings the song, almost the entire song.
Well, he's a
It's-
Broadway performer, so
I don't care. I don't want to
Just
listen to him
saying.
sing this song for the entire length of the actual song.
Why else would they hire him for this movie?
just for this one scene, this is why they hired him. You can sing, right?
Also,
Yeah, I've done Broadway.
this
There
is
you
the
go.
wettest movie I've ever seen. There is it rains from beginning to end. 2.4 million gallons of water was used.
Yeah, and
in the
Broderick
making of this
complained that
movie.
they were in wetsuits the entire fucking movie and that the zipper was on the back.
But he
The
put
wetsuit.
his wrong.
Put it on
The
wrong.
visual look of this
Wrong.
movie is so dreary. The constant rain adds to the feeling of clinical depression you feel when you watch this movie.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Oh god.
I thought it was jolly, but whatever.
No, he's
The-
trying
the
to make
gray.
things happy. It's just so dark and dreary. And from one who hates rain,
Yeah, this
I can relate to it.
is beginning to end. It just doesn't stop. So he gets reassigned by the State Department because something crazy's happened and they need him for this.
and what's
How do you say permit? I have a permit.
To be honest, as much as I enjoy this movie, Matthew Broderick, as we stated before, his performance is just like, where are you at, bro? Like, where are you going? There's dialogue.
He didn't get good direction.
No, the way he just reads off lines, it's just. I feel like he just had a hard time memorizing the lines, or
he tried so hard.
they were telling him 7 different ways to say lines, and he just was all over the place.
Is he supposed to be deer in headlights the entire movie, though being able to give the answer to every single question at the same moment? Because that's how
I think
read
it's the Independence Day, Jeff Goldblum, James Spader, Stargate, like kind of nerdy.
But God damn it, he's not Jeff Goldblum or James Spader. Let's just make
Yep.
that clear right now.
He can be a good actor. He's just not.
No, I
he's
agree.
not given
I
a good
agree.
performance
Yeah.
in this movie.
Yeah.
I agree.
So we then meet a bunch of Frenchmen who go to interview the only survivor of that Japanese fishing vessel that got attacked. And the only way they can get him to talk is by just shining a lighter in his face and going, "What did you see, old man?" And he just goes, "Godzilla," which I feel like that's not what he would say, right? Since he's Japanese.
He's saying Gojira.
Is he actually saying that? Oh, it sounded like he was just saying Godzilla.
This scene has haunted me.
But how
for my
did they know?
existence.
I actually like this scene.
I don't mind it, but the fact that they play it like 4 times in the fucking movie, and then everybody, like people that I
For
know,
sure, yeah.
that I'm in,
I
they know
love how you're seeing it, like the footage on the TV, and they just are showing the movie.
Yeah. And like as a Godzilla fan all my life, I have been fucking harassed about this scene. Anytime it gets brought up, this is the scene that people quote to me. I'm like, are you guys, what are you, like 2? This is not the only Godzilla movie that's ever existed. You're not a very good barometer of the franchise.
They
But
didn't watch
anyway,
anything to get ready for this.
no.
It's
No.
stock footage that they need to be able to reuse.
And my favorite, another thing I like about this is it's like, you know what? We can't have Godzilla be the result of the United States nuking shit. So fuck it. Let's just blame the French.
Yeah, this movie is, I don't know. I want to say it's racist towards the French, if that's possible. They're so stereotypically depicted. And just aside from that, the fact that we try to pass the buck off, I understand if you're doing an American remake, you don't want to necessarily, implicate yourself or your country. They didn't want Americans to feel bad about their role in, the devastation. But I guess they just felt fine letting the Frenchmen take the fall.
I mean, I guess we did. I mean, in 2014, Godzilla. We were to blame for that. We didn't specifically say Japan, but our tests in like Bikini Atoll. That was kind of like what the implication
Because
was.
the French never had a great military.
They did. They're one of the few countries that actually won the revolution. I'm just saying. all
And
right?
also,
I'm not-
the director's German, and
know.
maybe he had a thing against the French.
Well, yeah, because Germany had that extended
Yes.
vacation in France, but we got it.
So we then meet Kevin Dunn's character, and to be honest, he's one of my favorite characters of the entire movie. I love how he is just going so hard every scene.
does his
He's
job.
yelling. He's just an asshole to everyone, but he's just trying to do his job. Kevin Dunn, you're great. And I love that no one can get Nick's last name right. Stop saying his last name. Just call him Nick. Or I guess his name is actually Nico.
Ridiculous that this is the ongoing thing that's supposed to be funny.
This is the pinnacle of comedy in this movie. They do this joke
500,000 times.
Hey, I'll be damned if we don't. Okay, listen, I get this joke is reoccurring a lot. I'll be damned if we forget about the bouncing tire that happens in this movie like 6 times, too.
The prequel to Rubber.
Yes, this is a prequel to Rubber, by the way.
Just saying.
This is in the same movie as Universe's Rubber. And there's like 3 times that a car blows up and a tire bounces away in this movie.
It's funny.
I mean, I got his name wrong on purpose, but just
Is Totopoulos really that difficult to say?
No.
It's no worse than anybody else's last name in this.
Listen, no one ever gets my last name right. Ever. They never get it right.
Don't tell me, because I'll fuck it up, please.
Listen, this one, I blame for the last name. You can cut this. It's Wickwire. You know how many times I've had to spell it out?
It's not hard.
It's
exactly
not
how it sounds.
It's not difficult.
We're a simple people.
When you look at it,
I like how spooky it sounds.
It's Wick and Wire. And people are like, I'm inventory at my job, so I have to give people my last name a lot. And they're like,
it's not a common name from around here. That's
how do you spell that? And I'm like, exactly how it sounds.
You're so negative about it.
No. Listen, the UPS guy cannot get it.
I guess it just comes down to is this a good source of comedy? And the answer is no. Not in this movie.
It's not, because my maiden name I got made fun of for so long. It's Harden. Harden. You know how many times I got hard on in high school?
Listen, my co-host on Epic Film Guys, Jeremy's last name is Moorhead.
Yes, I grew up with a kid named Moorhead.
See, I went to school with one. So I'm
and
like,
my last name growing up was Sherwood until I married my wife and took her last name because I liked it better.
I'm like, I personally feel that.
Yeah, the only time it was funny for me was I like when Kevin Dunn does it, and he's just like, I don't care. Because he like says it wrong, and he's like, he corrects him, and he's like, I don't care. And then we move on.
I think he's the only one that showed up for his assignment and knew what he was supposed to
100%.
do. It was the only clearly written character in the entire fucking movie.
I think one of my favorite lines from him is when he's having that exchange where Nick is explaining what's going on. And he's like, do you know what that means? He's like, no, but I got a feeling you're going to tell me about it. Because he just did it so naturally. Like, he just really does not give a shit about all of this.
I mean, there comes a point where you're just like, nah, it's not something I haven't heard yet. So, okay.
I think of the humor in this movie, and I try to imagine myself like in the theater opening night with the packed audience, and I just imagine the jokes being met with just like a dead, stony silence.
No.
It's like there are pauses for laughter. Like when of course, I mean, we'll get to the famous line. Yeah. We'll talk about it, but just like, I don't know. The inclusion of Siskel and Ebert in this movie, you could have written funny things for them to say. A lot of times their banter just doesn't even make any sense. Like there's Gene says like, I don't know what's going on, and Roger goes, you never know what's going on, and Gene goes, thank you. And
also, they mix them up though. Saucy, to be very fair, they mix them up. Gene was always the stronger in terms of arguments, I felt.
Sure. Yeah, they kind of have him be like the kind of like the yes man, the kind of simple kind of.
And Gene was not that.
No. But anyway, I just think the humor in this movie is very, very, very poor. Lower than sitcom humor, I would say.
Oh my God. I'm so sorry I invited him on this episode. I don't even know what to say.
You think this movie is funny? Like, it's an honest question.
I do. I can relate to that. So there were some times that I was waiting for the, laugh track.
Yeah, there's a few you feel like, where's it at?
I'm like, push the button and then put the sign up that says audience laughs. Like,
Didn't have the budget.
Yeah, it was definitely like just some
There was
very
certain-
low end 90s humor where, you know, it's a lot of stuff that there was a lot of stuff that couldn't be done today. And then there was a lot of humor that just fell flat. Like I was not a fan of the Siskel or the Gene and Mary. Everything about that was just like, this is dumb. Like him just being a complete asshole to his assistant the entire time. Just, it was unnecessary and it didn't bring anything to what was going on with Godzilla.
Right out of the movie.
Yeah.
I like the candy jokes. That's my thing.
Yeah.
I think to be clear with this, and we can move forward pretty quickly if we just do it this way. Just hear me out. None of the characters in this movie are written with any nuance, any depth, anything. It's literally zero for
Charm.
all of them.
Yeah.
Nothing. They're all surface level
Like,
to
that
the
far?
bare minimum. I mean, none of them have any goal in life that means anything to anyone watching the movie. And none of it should fucking matter in the first place because we're watching a Godzilla movie. And when we're watching the Godzilla movie, yes, I've been there. I've not watched as many Godzilla movies as the two of you.
There are great characters in the Godzilla movies.
Yes,
It's
there
possible.
are.
You're
It's
missing
possible to
out.
write good characters.
Just saying.
But at the same time, in an American Godzilla movie, we are supposed to expect that they'll be most like much lesser value, stupider characters. So, but not this bad.
I
And
mean, can't be any worse than Godzilla. What terrible language.
Oh no, that's fucking gold. Are you kidding me?
my point is, if you're gonna take so much Godzilla out of the movie, give us characters that we at least want to hang around with.
Yes.
And none of the characters, even though I like this movie and I'm going to champion this movie in the end, none of these characters, you'll hear at the end, Loysauce, don't laugh at me. How dare you laugh at me until I get to my point?
Let the man speak.
He knows where you live.
Well, you're on my payroll. You better watch your mouth. No, but
I
for
know
real,
where
like,
you live, and I've seen where you sleep.
give me something that's interesting to hear about because no one gives a fuck about so-and-so's reporter job or anything like that's going on in this movie. When you compare this to Independence Day, and I have to keep going back to this because Emmerich made a fucking classic with that movie. We have characters that are so relatable. They're so well performed with actors that are fantastic. He knew how to make a good movie. It's a shame he hasn't made a really great one since
I was
then.
gonna say.
I mean, it's a classic movie, but he knew how to make relatable characters and direct them in a way where people could relate and want to watch them on screen. This movie's called Godzilla. See, in Independence Day, at least people are like, Independence Day, okay, whatever. It's not like called Aliens versus the United States of America or Aliens versus the world. You need to give us something to connect with. Something. And the hard part here is that there's nothing really relatable at all. We have a worm expert. We have this girl who fucked over her lover from 8 years ago, who's a liar and a cheat. We have the French government who fucked this whole thing up, and they're like, yeah, we're here to fix it. I didn't get my fucking croissant because there's no croissants here, and the coffee fucking sucks. I'm like, okay. All right,
Running
cool.
joke. That's another running joke that they think is really funny. They just think the audience is gonna howl with laughter at that.
No.
So
the
who
best
the fuck?
one is the gum. That's the best. That's the best.
Well, that's actually factually correct, though.
I love it.
When I went to Italy, I chewed gum to make sure they knew I was an American, so they didn't try to steal my wallet. But in reality, though, like, who are we supposed to root for in this movie? Like, we don't have a single human character where we can go, I like that guy, or I like that girl, or I like whoever they are, and I can connect with them and follow along with the movie and be like, I'm on their side. I want Godzilla to kill all of them.
I was going to say, I was rooting for
And
Godzilla this whole movie.
And Godzilla doesn't kill any of them.
He doesn't kill anybody.
that we
Well,
see.
no, that's
Oh,
not true.
okay. I'm sorry. He kills some people off screen.
Well, he stomps on some cars.
I
There's some
mean-
explosions. He kills some military people for sure. He
Yeah.
definitely kills. He bites some helicopters and they blow up. So he kills people.
Yeah,
he
You just
kills
don't
them
see
on
it.
purpose. But he's not killing them the way that Loysauce wants to see him kill them, because he wants to see them kill them in a menacing, scary way, which is what, when you think of Godzilla, like it's like thinking of Michael Myers, like, or Jason Voorhees or Freddy Krueger, like, oh no, he just tapped him on the shoulder and he died by accident. No, you want to see him like stab him in the fucking throat, or, you know, in a menacing way stalk them. Like having Godzilla just go, I'm gonna swipe you like this by accident and you're gonna blow up. Like, no, you don't want to see Godzilla do that. You want to see Godzilla murder.
It's like when,
But
it's
how
like when
many-
Chucky kills a guy by giving him a heart attack in Child's Play 3.
Which is true, but you don't see Godzilla actually physically kill a lot of people. He murks a lot of buildings, which probably had people in them. But how many buildings did this Godzilla hug? Like,
He does hug
literally.
buildings, he does. I love you.
Literally hugs the building, and I'm like, oh,
He's
he
got
loves it. But how
It's
many...
one of the best effect shots in the movie, though.
It's so good. But how many, from seeing the practical effects side, like seeing
We're looking for. What were they of?
original Godzilla actor in the suit?
Haru Nakajima?
Yes. How many times have you physically seen Haru Nakajima in the suit step on a building?
That was quite a bit.
Like, seeing behind the scenes.
Oh, yeah.
Like, shit,
Although
they're not
the
getting out of that
awesome miniature
building.
work
Yeah,
that they
like
were
just when he
doing,
blow it up. Dude.
But you know there's people that are in that building
Yeah.
at this time. So
And
you know
there's lots of collateral damage. Like obviously people die off screen.
Yeah.
Godzilla in the Japanese films has like straight up murdered people. Like
oh yeah. Like seeing the
Dan's
people
chomping
in,
at the bit.
When you get done.
but seeing people in, like, seeing the scenes from people in the building, and then you see, you know, him walking past, like, you know that they're dead. They're dead.
Absolutely.
They're, like, it's not.
How amazing. I'll cut in for real quick and just say this. How amazing would it be in these scenes in this movie when they're like, oh yeah, your story just walked by, and then you saw Godzilla actually turn and see them and give atomic breath and burn them all to a fucking crisp? How amazing would that have been? But instead, Godzilla just looks in and walks by.
How does Cayman not feel or hear a 500-ton lizard walking
God.
past?
Dude. Well, hold on.
How many times has it happened where they're like, you'd feel that?
Yeah, exactly. Like,
Freaking earthquake.
everybody's like, what's going on? Like, guys.
He's not on the fucking phone talking to mom, like, hey mom, what you doing? Like, no, like he would feel this. Or the guy in the semi later, and he's like, I'm like,
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I know exactly. It's a good practical shot. But I know exactly what you're talking about.
there are so many times where you know that they feel this shit.
Headphones mute everything.
Yeah. Like, but you know that whole scene where Godzilla's walking by, there's people dead.
He's he has to be stepping on hundreds of people. Like, this is not.
You know that it happens. You just don't see it. But you know
don't feel
it
the
happens.
impact. You
No,
should
'cause I
feel
don't-
the impact.
Yeah.
That's my point. You should
Yep,
feel the
yep.
impact of that. That's what would build the terror and
Yep.
what the audience is supposed to feel from watching any kind of monster movie.
Yeah.
Or world destruction movie, as Roland Emmerich likes to make. He likes to make, oh wow, look, all these people are dying. But in
Don't
this movie,
see
it's like,
anyone die in this movie. No one seems to be scared. There's no threat.
No.
we're gonna
They
go to
are
the bar and all hang
so-
out.
Yeah.
Listen, that's probably where I'd be hanging out. But
Like that one guy in The Return of Godzilla.
yeah,
I'd be there in Brooklyn. I'd be there in Brooklyn, not in Manhattan. Though.
Hey, you think you're a big shot just coming into town? That fucking dude. Oh my god.
the movie where they're in the. My brain is not working at the moment. They've made 2 movies where they're in the.
Thinking. Is it a giant monster movie? We're talking about Godzilla still?
recent. We went and saw it with Brandon.
Rampage. No, Pacific Rim.
Pacific
Rim's fucking brilliant, by the way. First one, second one sucks ass.
Yes, agreed.
Oh, Pacific Rim sucks.
Correct opinion. Go ahead, Angela.
God, I like both of them. Shit, he doesn't like the second one. I like
second
both
one
of
is
them.
trash.
The first one's
I hate both of them.
But it's like the whole scene with the girl who is hiding behind the dumpster.
Oh yeah, when she's running from Oni Baba. Yeah.
Nobody else seems to
because
be aware.
well, I think that scene was more played up as because it was it was her memory of the event, so maybe it didn't play off of everybody else's experiences. Seeing other people running away was just her experience with that kaiju.
I can feel that because you never know how you're gonna act in the moment.
Yeah.
But when you see a gigantic thing in front of you, are you gonna run?
Well, some people do.
Before it happens?
People in this movie just kind of look at Godzilla. Just kind of look at him, because they're not looking at anything, because Godzilla's not there. But they're just kind of vacant gaze. Yeah.
This is New York. I've seen everything.
There's a couple scenes where, when they go to Madison Square Garden, they find the nest, and then all the baby Godzillas start hatching from the eggs.
The best scene of the movie.
I swear, Hank Azaria had to nudge the actress who plays Audrey to be like, look over there, because that's where they're supposed to be. And because there's times where she's just standing there and then slowly awkwardly turning around, but not in a way that would be like, oh shit, there's something behind me. It's like, oh shit, I have to look at that point. I was like, oh my God. But I get it. It's probably difficult to act alongside nothing.
I get it.
But
I get it.
Jesus.
Especially if you're not an actor like she was.
I feel like the girl that was in Pacific Rim played it off better than
anybody else in this movie.
She looks terrified.
Oh,
terrified.
She's bawling her eyes out on the ground, clutching the teddy bear she had or whatever she was holding.
That's the difference between a film directed by That's the difference between a film directed by Guillermo del Toro and a film directed by Roland Emmerich.
But listen, Guillermo del Toro plays from, this is what happened. We're gonna just backtrack to.
He knows he can put trauma on the screen better than Roland Emmerich. Roland Emmerich's like, blow shit up. That's literally all he cares about. Blow shit up, destroy buildings. I don't care. But yeah, to your guys' point, to the fact that he didn't kill barely anyone in this movie, when he loves just blowing the earth up and just, how can I wipe out humanity? And then this movie was like, nah, I'm good.
I'm going to run from everything.
Yeah. Remember, he's just an animal.
He's just an animal. But, seeing the practical effects from, the OG Godzilla movies where it's
actually something there.
Actually something there. He's stepping on it. He's dying inside because it's so hot in this. He's like, let's get this over with right now.
I will give this movie some credit for this, because when I paid attention to it tonight very closely, there's so many great close-up shots. There's so many great close-up shots of the full-size animatronic.
Yes.
Of the 7 or 8 foot tall puppet that they used for a lot of the small miniature shots of Godzilla destroying cars and buildings and stuff. Where you don't even see that 5 years after this movie came out at all. Where it was just fully CG. And while there are some very questionable CG shots in this movie, I think there are some fantastic shots of Godzilla in New York City. And again, I will say this because I'm very proud of my setup at my house. I have a very good fucking 4K setup. My OLED is perfectly fucking calibrated. I'm just saying, the way that we screen movies at Alamo Draft House, I'm very keen to the way things are supposed to look when it comes to this. And
someone seems unimpressed by this. I'm down with it, but boy, may
I'm just joking because it's a running joke every time Justin mentions his 4K setup. It's like, oh god, okay, here we go. I agree with Justin. I think the special effects, especially when Godzilla first appears in New York, are still impressive. It's quite clear that they spent all of their CGI budget on that particular sequence because Godzilla doesn't look that good for the rest of the movie.
For the rest of the movie, there's some shots like where Godzilla jumps into the water during the submarine sequence, for example.
Takes this little dive and there's like a little dainty splash.
But it looks better than when you see the back shot of the tail going in the water. You can tell in this movie.
Say back shot again.
We're back shot.
There you go. Thank you.
Back shot.
You gotta get that right. You gotta get that in there.
But you can clearly see at this point in time, if you know how these effect shots work, where they spent their money. And I wanted to get your opinion on this because you watched it for the first time on 4K, Parker. Dude.
I love like the sequence that Loysauce is talking about, the whole entrance into New York. And I love that Godzilla 2014 did the same, pretty much the same shot, which I appreciated. Yeah, the bridge shot of him coming up and you don't really get to see the full look of him yet. And I mean, the shot at the dock with the old man is great, but yes, there are quite a few shots, especially seeing it in 4K, which I thought this movie looked really good in 4K, but it was weird. Is it usually how 4K works where there's some shots that they just don't even bother touching that just look like standard?
No, that just means those are the shots they didn't end up putting more money into.
Okay. Because there was certain shots, like for instance, the shot with the old man where Roach is trying to get him to talk. It straight up looks like it's a VHS rip. Like it looks.
No,
like
I know
the
what you
quality
mean.
is just
I know
like,
what you're saying.
It just goes into the toilet, and then it would. It's funny because it's all one shot where it would be like really shitty quality, or I don't want to say shitty, but like VHS quality, and then it would go to.
I noticed exactly what
4K,
you're talking about,
and then it would jump back to that VHS quality. I'm like, whoa, it's just jarring for me because I've been diving into more 4K, especially when it comes to older movies, and you kind of get it. It's not like if you're buying a movie now that was filmed in 4K, already made in 4K, you're not really going to tell much of a difference. But like when you see these older movies that are being transferred into 4K, you get those.
Well, to be fair, my friend, I will correct you slightly because the films that are shot in 4K, 9 times out of 10, Loysauce, you can attest to this, they don't actually finish in 4K, and 9 times out of 10, if it's a Marvel or DC or Indiana Jones or whatever it may be, they don't finish them in 4K. So when you see them in a theater that has 4K capability, you're not actually seeing it in 4K unless you're seeing it in Dolby or IMAX, where they actually screen it in 4K if they get the 4K version.
Getting a 2K. 2K.
Yeah, they're getting it in 2K. So you're not actually getting that proper version. So when you're watching it at home in true 4K, you're actually seeing a better version than what you would technically see. Like, for example, I forget which Guardians of the Galaxy movie it was when we screened it years ago, Loysauce, and they sent us a 2K version. And then when you get home and you get to watch 4K and HDR or Dolby Vision, like, because the studios just don't care.
Right.
That's the reality. But in this case, the movie was shot all on film. So you're automatically going to get an uptick because film, in terms of the presentation of quality within 35 millimeter, is automatically better than 2K digital. So you're going to see something better automatically. So
it's
this
dependent
movie,
on the quality of the film stock that they happen to be
stock,
using,
of course.
because that's why some scenes look better than others, because it was just what they were using. To
whatever
film
they were
day.
using at the time, and they weren't thinking like, "Hey, in 20 years from now, we're going to have 4K Ultra HD." But for the most part, the majority of the movie looks as good as it does because they were shooting on high quality, the best of the stock they could get, 35 millimeter at the time.
So yeah, I mean, this movie looked really good in most parts. A lot of the 4K shots looked really good, but you could definitely tell in some of the shots that Godzilla you could tell he is just, it looks awful. Like it looks bad, especially the underwater shots are it's probably some of the worst that I've seen in a long time. And, not to make Justin mad, but I watched The Flash yesterday, and there are some, it's like the baby scene from The Flash. Like
The difference between those two things, and I've heard it a million times. That's the one argument. One is intentional, one is not. So that's the difference.
All right.
And also, let's give the movie a little bit of credit. I mean, the movie came out in 1998.
Right.
That was the kind of infancy of CGI. So cut it a little bit of slack.
And also, everyone Loysauce was trying to catch up with ILM. ILM did not do the effects for this movie. We saw what ILM did not that long after, the following year with the prequels. So we'll leave it at that.
We saw what they did with Spawn, and then we saw what they did with the prequels. Yeah. So
that's all Loysauce gets some credit for. That's it.
I have nice things to say about this movie, like one or two things. So.
Yeah, I was gonna say you can count it on one hand.
No.
Carry on, Parker.
Moving swiftly.
No, I mean this was. I feel it's a really good transfer. I don't even know where to even continue with this plot. We've gone so far off course. I don't even know where to begin.
We don't even know.
I think the funniest thing. So like we're back to like Nick. The fact that Nick takes so long to figure out he's standing in a footprint. I was like, what?
I don't see it.
Like that whole thing was like, why is this going on for so long? He's like, I don't see it. It's literally like a child when you're like, I can't find this. And you're like, well, look in your room. And you then walk into their room like 10 minutes later and they're just standing in the middle of their bedroom going, I don't know where it is. I've looked everywhere. Have you moved from that spot? No.
Probably not. Like I have kids. I know that.
It's awful.
Yeah.
So they see the tape of the survivor from the boat. And we also meet Elsie and the cold guy. I can't remember what his name was, but like I said,
Raven.
we don't see him very often, so it doesn't really matter. And then we meet Audrey. Woo! The best character in the movie. That's another. I know I already said that about Nick, but she is right there with him. And we find out she's an assistant to a shitty news anchor played by Harry Shearer. And he won't give her a job because she won't have dinner with him, even though he's married. And you're like, of course, shitty fucking news anchor or shitty boss, womanizing. Yeah, have dinner with me. Well, you're married. And he's like, well, do it anyways. And she's like, no, I'm busy. And that's the whole conversation. And then we see that he's very short compared to his new co-anchor. And we get that whole thing again.
There's no payoff to any of this, by the way.
No, so
absolutely not.
You know what? It's getting to the point where I just want to skip everything that happens with all of these side characters. The only characters I want to focus on is Nick and the French guy and everything that has to do with Godzilla itself, because these side characters lead to nothing the entire movie. You have, we can jump a little bit forward. You have, they meet up with Animal in the restaurant, and we meet Animal and his wife. Cool. I wish Lucy was in this movie more because she was probably going to be way more interesting than Audrey was. We have Audrey.
Those bangs, though. Those bangs. Yeah. Jesus Christ.
Would have heard at least a few more racial slurs.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. I'm sure.
What does that say?
We already got a WAP in there, so why not?
Oh, God. Makes me look horrible. I want that woman to be more prominent in this movie.
It's not that you agree with her. She's just more interesting as a character.
Sure.
But if you cut Audrey
in
out,
this movie, anything's more interesting than what we're given at the forefront.
Yeah, she sees Nick on the TV. We then get the whole thing where Godzilla makes his appearance on the dock, and it's the same. Godzilla emerges from the same location as the creature from Beast from 20,000 Fathoms.
That's what I'm saying. Just make this a Beast from 20,000 Fathoms remake. I will admit, the first half hour, everything leading up to and including Godzilla's emergence in New York is not half bad.
It's pretty fantastic.
There's a solid buildup of tension. There's some ominous foreboding of the creature. And then when Godzilla first appears, it doesn't show the whole creature, but you're seeing enough of him to be like, oh man, like the excitement ratchets up with that scene. It takes a nosedive immediately afterwards. But I will say that whole sequence is very impressive.
Yeah.
Loysauce just wants a Godzilla short, and that's it. Like 30 minutes, that's it.
Yeah, you just get this 30 minutes and you're done.
Or just a good movie. I mean, I don't know.
So it was really cool, though, to read that in order to get the reaction from the guy driving the dude who was reading the paper with the headphones on in the truck, they shot him with a paintball gun to get his reaction. To when
Oh my
Godzilla,
God.
so when Godzilla, is supposed to be picking up the truck, that was like a reaction of him getting hit by paintballs.
How did he not feel the
His peg.
earthquake that happened
like
before
No,
this?
because no one, when you're wearing headphones or anything, you just don't. Everything is just tuned out. When you're on the phone with whoever freaking Kamen was on the phone with later on, when oh my god,
I mean,
That's like some William Friedkin shit, like shooting a gun off on the set of The Exorcist to get reactions from the actors. Like, crazy.
I read that. I was like, holy shit.
Nick in the beginning didn't feel the whole freaking helicopter.
And he's like, I'm just playing with worms. Like, yeah, you'd feel
He's wearing headphones, you see.
Yeah.
Instantly
It
mutes
just
everything around.
blocks everything out,
And they're
sound.
Vibration.
And they're just probably like
Vibration.
$10 headphones he probably bought at a Walmart. Like they weren't anything special. So how does he not hear anything?
Circuit City back then.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Please.
Yes.
Radio Shack.
Radio Shack.
Rip Radio Shack right now.
So-
Both of them rip.
We get Nick telling him about how pretty much why Godzilla is the way he is, because he was, affected by radiation. And he's
I'm sorry. I have to cut in here.
Oh boy.
When he says, I believe it's a mutated aberration, and everyone acts shocked, isn't that why he was brought in to investigate in the first place? And then he says, it's a hybrid. Hybrid of what? An iguana and what? Like, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever, that whole...
Yeah, the whole thing is...
It's meant to be very dramatic, like the dawn of a new species and all of that, but none of it makes any sense. It's just
By the way, you
words.
just sounded just like him. You should be a Matthew Broderick impersonator, I swear to God.
You were like, but yeah, it's just gibberish to church him up. That's all they were doing.
It's a smart car.
So we are now in New York City, and I like, instead of it saying New York City, it just says the city that never sleeps. Thank you, because we didn't know that already. Like I stated before, we meet Animal. They pretty much are like talking to Audrey about, oh, you're not tough enough to be, a news anchor, or to be, to get the job that she wants. She's not tough enough for it. And we get the whole thing that we hear at least 4 or 5 times in this movie about how nice guys finish last.
Fucking nice guys.
Like, I get it if this is what you're telling her, but it's said 3, 4, 5 times, I think, in this movie about how nice guys finish last. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, the messaging in this movie is terrible.
Yep.
Here I am just thinking of Nice Guys Finish Last by the song.
I know.
Green Day?
Green Day. Fucking
Nice
hell,
guys
like-
finish last and now.
See,
Yeah.
and
You're right, strike.
and
Go
all-
It's on Nimrod. It's on Nimrod.
Thank you. I could see them, but and every time they said Animal, all I could think of Maroon 5.
Ugh.
It played in my. It just played in my head the whole time they said Animal.
I just had to say that because I hate Maroon 5. So she sees Nick on TV, find out that he was her college sweetheart. Don't care. We then get one of the best scenes of the movie where you meet Old Man Joe as he's going to fish in the pouring rain. And I like the 2 other guys that are behind the fence, just like, what are you gonna catch today, Joe? A cold,
dude. The crazy thing about that is you have dude from Scream there, the cameraman. He's one of the fishermen in that scene.
Oh shit, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I didn't
he's
realize
just
that.
there for a cameo.
That's
there, real
great.
Quick.
Love it. So, and he catches something big, and the thing is it took that long for the fishing rod to get yanked out of his hand.
He's right there.
Dude, I have so many problems with how this scene works. It just doesn't. But carry on.
Because Old Man would not have been able to outrun that.
Well, no, I mean, I'm just talking about the cast he did to get Godzilla. We talked about this during the movie. I'm not getting into
it. It's like 100-yard
Is there
cast.
really a fisherman in the audience going like, no, there's no way it would have taken.
Hey, this is what this show is all about.
No,
we like to
I
nitpick
was
at the
thinking
dumbest
that.
shit
I was
possible.
like, what is this?
Like, dude,
But to me,
cast
it's
his
clearly an
rod
homage
out.
to Jaws. To me,
Oh, 100%. This is
Yeah.
the doc scene
Yeah.
from Jaws. Well,
This
it's
movie-
trying to be.
Emmerich desperately wants to be Steven Spielberg. This film is littered, packed to the gills with shameless ripoffs of Close
Gills,
Encounters of the
yeah.
Third Kind,
That's what she gets in this.
Jaws, Jurassic Park. There's the line referencing Jaws. We need bigger guns. There's the dolly zoom, the famous shot from Alfred Hitchcock's Vertigo.
When he's doing the when he's taking the manhole covers off or whatever, right? That's when that happens.
And the cops. So we get it not once but twice. So Emmerich is just shameless in his attempts to
even though Spielberg told him not to make the movie.
But it's a I'm gonna show him.
Yeah. I'll show you Spielberg. I can make a fucking movie.
I bet the audience is really gonna love this. Anyway,
sorry.
I mean, my favorite part is, of course, how long it takes Joe to react and run away. He's got to put his hands up to his face, and then it's the two guys behind him are just like, get out of there, run. And then because I'm that guy, I don't care, but it's always funny to watch is because it's a green screen effect where he's running away from nothing, but you see that his feet are floating across the dock because of that effect. It makes me laugh, but I mean, I get it. I never noticed it because I always watch it on VHS, but watching it in 4K, you're like, oh, that's pretty funny to finally see that.
See now, so aren't you glad? Aren't you glad now you watch the 4K? See, there it is.
So we then meet the mayor, and he's given a speech that got cut short because we get a lot of vibrations going through the city, and of course, again, it takes so long for people to react to the fact that the city is shaking. And it's not like earthquake, like subtle shake. No, it's a fucking these big booms that are happening. You got the cops standing by the car.
Another reference to Spielberg in Jurassic Park. Yeah. They're like, hey, look what he did in 93. We're going to do it tenfold and make it even more massive. What would it be like to feel this in a city?
Yeah.
And it lasts all of 2 seconds.
Make the car alarms to go off,
Yep.
The shot though, so you see the cop reacting to his cop car moving and the earth shaking, and then the shot of the building crumbling behind them. I really like the shot. Really good.
Awesome.
So my favorite shot in the entire movie.
I do love that. Yeah, I do love that.
It's there's not enough. As movies are bad at this, I think, for especially giant monster movies, as I feel, it's not enough movies do it from a low angle. As a individual, there's not enough shots of that for me in kaiju films, just in period. So I always appreciate them. In this movie, like I said, this is my favorite shot of the movie because that's always what I wanted. Is I always wanted more low up shots, and it's just not enough of them.
So Godzilla, makes his way through the city, causing destruction. Animal makes chase to get some footage, and you get the scene where he gets stepped on, but he luckily enough is between the toes, so he doesn't die.
His Mo comes
footage.
out in
The resulting footage that he gets looks like it's been through an atomic bomb explosion. What happened to that footage?
Why is there no color?
Why? What's wrong with the tracking?
Exactly.
To be honest, though, I always find it amusing, the whole thing where he's chasing and he's always having an issue with the tape, and then it's the whole thing where right before Godzilla steps on him, he just kind of pauses, takes a breath, and then just clicks it in and shuts it right before he takes. I like that whole sequence. To be honest, of all the useless characters, I enjoy Hank Azaria in Animal. I just like his quips and stuff that he says throughout the whole thing.
I think it's because he is the best performer in the role in this movie that kind of knows where he can go, and also he has so much under his belt in terms of being a performer. He can just go in any way they tell him.
He can make something out of nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We then meet possibly the most anxiety-ridden human being I've ever seen in my life, and that is Sergeant O'Neill, who just is. I'm like, how have you made it this far in the military with just how he's just always shaking, he's stuttering all the time. Like, I understand the situation you're faced with, but holy shit, man. Just take a breath.
Another useless character. And I wonder, is he meant to have a stutter that he overcomes? Is that part of his character? It's never established, but it seems like he stutters enough for that to be like a major plot point.
Just realized as you guys were talking that not only is he in Teen Wolf as one of the basketball players, but Loysauce, he's in Trick or Treat. Oh my
Sucks.
God. So automatically, he is the best actor in the entire fucking movie.
Automatically,
Hands
this movie gets
down.
5 stars.
Oscar nomination should have been worthy. In reality, poor guy.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Snip him right out of the movie.
Anyone,
Come right
seriously though, anyone that had any kind of, I want to be a Hollywood movie star. They had any, dedication to that life. They're like, I just got cast in Roland Emmerich's Godzilla. Better believe that those wishes were just burned alive.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned Teen Wolf, and I was like, I knew he looked familiar, and I was like, fuck. 2 things you mentioned, and I was like, well, shit.
Well, I think he was probably originally I felt like by the end of the movie he was probably supposed to have a bigger role in the film, but they just packed most of it out.
Yeah. So they make plans to evacuate the city, and it's like, oh, it's the first time this has ever happened. It's a big deal, something like that. But then it's the whole thing where Kevin Dunn shows up and he's talking to O'Neill and he's just like, yeah, he just disappeared. And he's like, how the fuck did he just disappear? And he's just like, like, bro, just breathe, man. Like, like,
did he have a stuttering problem? Like, I don't know. I feel like I'd be more forgiving if the character had like an established like thing that he had to work with or overcome. Like it could be like representation for people with stuttering. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. I feel you, but I don't feel that was the case here. I don't feel like he was. I just think they made his character so hopped up and so anxiety ridden that was just his reaction to everything. And it just seems so out of place for the type of character he was supposed to be. He's supposed to be a military man. Like somebody who and a high ranking one too.
Considering the incompetence of the military in this movie, it might make a lot of sense why he's that way.
Yeah.
Breathtaking incompetence from the military in this movie.
Yeah.
Oh, it's horrible. It's horrendous how bad they are. So Animal gets praised for getting that sweet ass footage, and Audrey oogles over Nick on the TV as they're talking about people dying. They literally mentioned how many people have died, and she's just like, I'm so wet right now for Nick. And you're like,
anyone else notice?
Hate it.
Did anyone else notice that they mention that this is the worst disaster to happen since the World Trade Center bombings?
Yeah, it was like one of those like moments.
It was like, we were talking about this because how The Simpsons has predicted a bunch of things that have happened. I'm like, what if it's people that are watching The Simpsons that are like, I want to make that happen one day?
Well, I mean, World Trade Center got bombed multiple times prior to
it was, but it wasn't that long before.
I know, it was 3 years.
Yeah, it was definitely a yikes moment when you watch it.
Yeah.
But it was just it just shows like how terribly they wrote Audrey, with her just literally like, oh, Nick, and literally as they're showing her face looking so like gracefully into the screen, they're just like, and 168 people have died, and you're like, this is out of place, guys. Come on.
And if you've watched Us, I hate love stories that shouldn't be in love stories.
Yeah, movies,
like I said, this entire thing should have just been erased from this movie.
I wanted to kick her to the curb. Like, stop it.
Cut that runtime down.
Mm-hmm.
You needed that human element, though, that human like connection. I guess
I rolled my eyes so many times when she talked about, oh, he was my college sweetheart. Like,
but yet they see each other when they meet each other for the first time after 8 years. You feel nothing. You feel no chemistry between them. There's no way that these people have had a relationship in the past. I understand it's been 8 years, but you still would have that connection. You would feel something between them, and it was nothing. Matthew Broderick literally looked like he just wanted to run away from her as fast as he possibly could. He was like, who are you again? Bye. And just was trying to get out of there as fast as possible. That whole scene in the drugstore was
Oh
so
my gosh.
awkward. Where he is
Reminded me of the flower store scene in The Room. Just like how poorly like put together that scene is. It reminded me a lot of that. Where like the dialogue doesn't quite connect from one line to the next. Yeah.
I have more love interest with this Godzilla right here than she did with him.
Yeah,
He is very handsome.
He is. But it's like, don't force something that's not there. It's like seeing people act, and it's like, you guys need to like talk to each other before you start this movie. Like, I felt like they had just met each other like right then.
that's
You think it's
literally how it felt. Yeah.
You think it's down to the directing issues that Justin mentioned? Like they feel like they were directed well as with like Broderick and stuff.
It could have been.
Like,
Yeah.
at least meet each other before you start filming.
Guys, this is what we're gonna do.
Like, no, like, hey, hi,
Listen,
how are you?
we have 2 years to make this movie. They had a script for it, but fuck it, we're starting a whole new script over. Let's do it.
That shows the arrogance of Emmerich and Devlin. Like, no, we want to do things our way. They like Emmerich doesn't want to just direct a movie that Dean Devlin did not write. I know they're producing partners and all of that, but it's like, no, we have to completely reinvent Godzilla in our own image, and just the worst movie we possibly can.
And he'll be around long after you're dead. Sorry.
All right, let's continue along.
So she
trying to keep
steals,
things on the.
she steals Cayman's press pass because she's going to try to get in contact with Nick. We get
How did this get here?
we get the whole thing where the mayor is way more. I feel like he's way more involved than he probably should be. I understand he's the mayor of New York City, but like, would he be this closely involved with the military? To be honest, I don't really care. But it's like he's just. For one, it's mostly every time they show the mayor, it's just him being a complete asshole to his assistant, and it doesn't play into anything other than him yelling at Kevin Dunn's character, and Kevin Dunn just telling him to pretty much to shut the fuck up without saying shut the fuck up.
If you're trying to control what I'm eating, I'm yelling at you.
Have some chocolates.
I want chocolate.
I want those chocolates he had.
Dude, Hershey Kisses are awesome.
We also meet the Frenchman, Roach. Well, actually, we saw him before when they were at the island. They found the fishing vessel. We saw him there, but we meet him and we get the whole thing we were talking about, where it's the whole coffee bit. Where it was one of those things where it's like the first time it's okay, it's amusing, but then it just plays into it like, oh, I thought this was French roast, and he shows the can. It says French roast. It's like, what? Okay, and the whole croissant thing, like. We get it, like, but you did you not look into like how American customs are, like how America is as somebody from France? Like, it's not going to be the same. Your coffee's not going to be the same, and they just play into it so much. So the mayor's not happy. No one knows where Godzilla is, but O'Neill and a bunch of the guys in his squad, they found tunnels that Godzilla has been making underneath the city, and so. They got to get what they need to go after him. So this is when Nick comes up with the idea. Well, in order to attract him, why don't we, give him something that he really wants, and that's fish. So he literally orders dump trucks upon dump trucks worth of fish, puts them in a pile, and that's when you get the whole the infamous line where he looks at O'Neill and goes, "That's a lot of fish."
Loysauce, when you pass away. When your parents are all gone, your family's all gone, that's going to go on your tombstone. I want to make sure of it because you're going to die before me. I promise you.
Wow.
That's bleak.
Damn.
God
damn.
It's just going to say the god of podcasting underneath it.
That's a lot of fish.
Well, instead of that's a lot of cum, which would you prefer?
Oh, yeah. True.
That is your trademark line.
That is, well, it's only trademark because Nick spliced it and replayed it over and over.
And now I own it.
And you do. The pause that they leave for laughter. Again, I just imagine like the wind whistling, just like dead silence in the theater.
No, I'm more of what's a lesbian's favorite fast food restaurant?
Go ahead.
KFC. It's finger looking good.
that.
She's got it.
Boom, boom.
Waka waka.
I'm sorry, I haven't made the fish taco reference all night. I was just.
Hey, I've made it a lot, dude. Everything's wet. Everybody's slimy for everybody else.
Hey, I'm the
Fish
only.
Everybody's wet in this movie through the
Listen.
entire time. So yeah, we get it. So
Except
only
it's
female-
not sexy in the least.
No,
bit.
It's not.
Oh
It's
my
not.
Godzilla is the sexiest of everyone in this movie.
It's the worst awkward moment. It's like two kids having sex in high school, and they're like,
It's their first time.
"It's first time." You know, it's so awkward.
Just find a hole, figure it out.
Literally.
Which one?
I got my
You
one
gotta
in for the
find
day.
the correct one.
So
Holes is holes, bro.
So Nick goes, "Hey, we need him to smell the fish, so we need to open the manhole cover." So we get the whole
Exactly.
thing where he's getting guys to open the holes, and yeah, I said it. And O'Neill, and
You said open the hole.
and then O'Neill's in the side. He's like, "What is he doing?" Like, bro, come
Looking for the
on.
correct hole.
But then we get the very dramatic, he opens up the manhole cover and he can hear the growling underneath. And this is where you get literally sounds like a pair of pants are ripping, but it's
Crow.
Somebody's pants are
it's
ripping.
literally the road. And then,
When Godzilla, like when he breaks out of the concrete in the ground, it sounds like metal bending. It doesn't. There are some amazing like sound effects in the Dolby Atmos mix on the 4K disc. The sound is really robust. The mix is really good, but some of the Foley choices in this movie are just wrong. That's the wrong sound effect. And then they plug in like the generic stock like thunder sound effects that have been used since like 1930 or whatever. It's just like the exact same like royalty-free thunder sound effect throughout the entire movie.
That free to play.
Right.
sound.
I'm pretty sure you can still buy them their sound effects at Walmart for $2 in the $2 bin on their CD.
That's what they used, I'm sure.
You just got to dig low enough.
well, it's the same for when like right after the scene after Godzilla and Nick are like face to face. You get the another scene that kind of goes on a little too long
Because they're going to make out.
Yeah, pretty much. This is where you get more chemistry between Godzilla and Nick.
This is the moment where we're like, is Godzilla supposed to fuck this dude, or is this dude supposed to fuck Godzilla? Since there's no sex appeal in the rest of the entire movie, they're looking in each other's eyes.
Mm-hmm.
We can see the emotion.
They made
together in the moment.
They made more eye contact with each other than the two people that were supposed to be in love did.
Yeah.
That was the moment. That was the moment Godzilla got knocked up.
Yeah.
They shared valuable protein strands.
They say he reproduced asexually, but I don't.
I'm not sure I believe that. I think this moment may be the moment. Who knows?
It is.
That is
He
the
said
moment.
earlier on it was a hybrid.
Remember-
We don't know what hybrid that may be. Is it, radioactive nuclear versus animal, or is it human versus animal? We don't know.
Remember, life finds a way.
It does.
Exactly.
So Godzilla has the best dodgeball skills I've ever seen in my life because he is able to dodge every missile and rocket that's shot at him. Like, ow, ow!
They're all
But
moving so
also-
fucking slow.
So Roland Emmerich didn't want to
Yeah.
do the atomic breath on Godzilla, so we got whatever the hell this is. And why?
It's still cool.
It
It's
is.
still cool.
It is pretty cool. But why did they have to add the leopard roaring sound effect when it happens? It just seems so out of place. It's like, like what the fuck?
Getting rid of the atomic breath is a baffling choice because it's pretty much the one thing that separates Godzilla from just like a giant dinosaur. And they have the breath in there, but it just amounts to like two measly little poots of like fiery sort of
But
breath.
he kills them though. He
In
kills
separate
them.
scenes. One during that scene, and then one like, at the taxi cab chase at the
Yeah.
end.
Yeah.
He
Pathetic.
just crop
They
dusted
called
him.
it power breath, from what I read.
Yeah. Because
Dumb.
he's essentially it's a burp that just ignites.
He just crop
It's like
dusted
the
him.
it's like the dragons from Reign of Fire.
No,
Were
no,
they
no.
ha-
Those are way cooler.
No,
way cooler,
way
no,
cooler.
Way
It's like,
fucking cooler,
can't even
Brad.
compare
Here.
the two things. Let's
Yeah.
not even
Yeah.
dare. Please,
Yeah.
let's not.
So, because this is like him burping, it just happens to be flammable when it hits the fucking taxis and explodes or cars or whatever. And I agree with you. Like, there was no reason for him not to have it. Is the giant iguana too much of a stretch? Like, we can't do the atomic breath. Lord, no.
I agree with both of you. There was no reason for them
They-
not.
I-
They could have
guess-
done anything they wanted to with the giant iguana. They could have said it shoots lasers out of his fucking eyes. It breathes fucking fire. It breathes fucking ice. They could have done anything they wanted with it.
Either they were scared and they didn't want Godzilla to cause too much destruction, or I think that's it. That's all I got. Or I guess
I don't know. I mean, honestly, dude, seriously, Dan, what do you think, dude? Why did they not allow Godzilla to do more in this movie?
they didn't think it would be realistic. I don't know. They didn't want him fighting another monster, so
I assume so because he doesn't do like you said. They made him very animalistic, like we talked about. He just kind of like does its thing, but then when he does his animalistic thing, it doesn't make sense because an iguana from the Galapagos, allegedly, but they're in French Polynesia. Why did it go to a much colder climate to lay its eggs? Doesn't make sense. And why is it cold-blooded and still able to move that fast in a climate that's cold?
Now we're
Dude,
getting all factual and shit.
I know. Just if we're gonna go realistic, that's how this shit works.
I love how Godzilla just like vanishes, and Nick's scientific explanation for this is that New York is a place where he can easily hide. We're talking about like
Again,
a 108.
you need to be the next Matthew Broderick impersonator. I swear to God. Times Square.
Dress up
Here
as
we
him.
go. You can dress up as Totopoulos. Fucking.
Even
Ferris
when I was
Bueller.
even when I was a child, I thought it was incredibly stupid that a 180-foot monster could just like disappear. And like no one in the city is a city of like whatever 100 million people, or not 100 million, 6 million people.
But keep in mind, this is before cell phones, though, Saucy.
That's very true. That's very
Unless they're
true.
on TikTok.
our son pointed that out too. He's like, "Is there cell
No one's-
phones?"
no one's using a
Because
cell phone,
remember,
exactly.
later on in the movie, and I'm sure we'll get there, when they mention the internet, they say the intranet.
No.
Yes, they do.
They say the network is on an internet.
And
Yes.
It's the
internet.
seri-
Yes.
And then you see an Independence Day alien action figure sitting on top of the computer.
That's what that
Yes.
was.
Yes.
I was trying to place
Yeah.
it. Okay, yeah.
Because I have that figure still. It was the blue one that had the
Yeah.
tentacles that were rubber underneath. Yeah, I had that one.
But no, but
Go ahead.
this point in time, the internet is a series of tubes.
It is a series of tubes with poker chips and horses running through them.
Yep.
When this movie came out, I was still taking the time to download nude Pamela Anderson photos from the internet, and it would take like 4 hours. So I would go to my friend's house, be like, Pamela Anderson Playboy nudes, and it would take like 4 hours. We'd just like, dude, sitting there looking at the screen all day, like, yes, it's finally coming. And when it does, we're gonna print it out. We're gonna tape it to your wall until your dad gets home. This is the era in which this movie came
Yes.
out.
This is where this king started, and I love this fucking origin story. Thank you, Justin. But I want to point out one more thing before we move on. Justin, you made a joke about this, but Godzilla has shot lasers out of his eyes before. This is 100%.
No, I'm saying like that's what I'm saying. Like they,
Yeah.
dude, there's so much they could have done in the movie. Like in terms of like visually,
Yeah.
you could have had Godzilla do anything you wanted in this movie. And I'll keep going back to Independence Day, but like it's a great example of like Emmerich just going like balls to the wall. We could do anything we want with this, and that's why I brought Loysauce on the show, because I just knew how much he hated this interpretation. But it's like he could have gone like Godzilla can do this, Godzilla can do that. Like they could have even broadened the spectrum on what Godzilla could do. Like Godzilla could have like shot lasers out of his fucking claws for all they cared.
Would have been a bridge too far, you know.
I know. I'm just saying.
Lasers out his ass at this point.
I'm just
Like,
saying. I'm just saying they did nothing to further the character or
Make Godzilla fearsome or give him
I'm just
personality
saying,
or anything.
in terms
Yeah.
of a visual aspect as well. Like I actually like when he just coughs, basically sneezes, and the military cars go ooh, and fire goes oh. Because I'll never forget Loysauce that night when I was hammered. I can't believe I remember this. And you were like, "That's not atomic breath," and I go, "It looked like it was to me."
It's most certainly not.
But at the same time, I understand like they could have done so much more, even without caring about the Godzilla character. You could have added so many different elements to the character, and instead, you have an animal running away from everything.
Give him atomic breath and make him fly. Shit, they've done that already.
But
can you imagine seeing him fly in this shit? Oh my, that would have been amazing. Oh my god. I mean, he already crawls up buildings and shit, and he's just like, no, I'm good, bro. I just want
side
some
of the
fish
building.
to feed
He
my
sprouts
kids."
wings.
I mean,
Takes
he
off.
could have been what melt.
Well, no. Oh, burning. Oh, no, don't even bring burning Godzilla into this. That's just sacrilege.
But yeah, there's so many things that could have happened.
Too many people make Godzilla movies and forget the fact that he's radioactive. That's one of my biggest problems with the entire franchise.
And I just
Yeah,
feel like this one is, we're just gonna seep out the bad stuff.
Yeah, because they play into the fact that he's created because of radiation, but yet he has no
suits or anything. Yeah.
He has no abilities because of the radiation as Godzilla is supposed to have.
He's not even just
a large mutation.
Yeah, he's not even just fucking radioactive, which they've mentioned before. And everybody's like, "Oh, it's fine. We can just walk up from those."
Get back to the scene. Like Godzilla running from the military is sacrilege. Godzilla being in any way at all affected by the military is
or what you
sacrilege.
told me. Or you told me you made a great point. I'm going to cut you off or anything. You said at any moment if Godzilla ever seems scared, that's against the character.
Yeah, unless he's fighting another monster. But even then, like Godzilla should just be, fucking motherfuckers up. Basically.
And it's not necessarily when he's fighting someone else that he's scared. He's like, "Oh, that's new. Like, let's see what I'm."
He has been surprised on occasion
Yeah.
before, but it's got to assess the situation.
He opens his eyes a little bit, right?
Hedera puts him through it.
Yeah, even Biollante does it as
Yeah.
well.
Mm-hmm.
How many
we've seen it.
characters has he fought?
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. He runs and jumps into the ocean plenty of times when he knows like I need to retreat and like
reassess
my
the
strength
situation.
back and shit.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Is that
he
not
never
what he was
like
doing here?
He was. I mean, technically, you could say that he was reassessing the situation.
I guess you could say that for sure.
Because technically, they're trying to make this Godzilla more intelligent and new. Like he's not familiar. That's why he checks out Nick and then the fish, and he's curious about the lights and stuff. And he gets chased by the helicopters, and he's like, "What the fuck's going on here? I don't know." He's not. I get it. Listen, I'm not trying to say it's right. It does not. It's not in character. But like for this version of Godzilla, it kind of makes sense.
So can we say that possibly Roland Emmerich got part of Godzilla right?
No.
Yeah, it's like
I'm just looking at you.
No.
But he has bear hugged and flown with
Hedorah.
I mean,
Or flying Godzilla. More of it.
it was a.
Yeah.
Where are we going with this?
Yeah.
I just want to mention the fact that the helicopter pilots are possibly the like why are they so low? Like I understand they're shooting at Godzilla, but why are they not hovering over the buildings and trying to assess the situation?
No.
Dude,
Because then the scene can't happen.
The
chase
scene
can't happen.
No joke. One scene. I don't even remember when this happens, but there is a scene where 57,000 helicopters all come out at the same time. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I'm just imagining in reality they all crash into each other. Like that's just how it would actually happen.
The chase doesn't make any geographical sense. Like there's no reason
Neither
why they're
chase
flying
does.
so low. They're like shooting into buildings, which they say that the island of Manhattan was evacuated, but clearly it wasn't because we're still following characters like Audrey and Animal who are able to stay behind somehow.
Yeah.
So were there people
Yo,
in those
hanging out
buildings?
at the bar. I'm gonna get drunk at the bar.
Thank you, Justin. So, there's that scene where the building's hollowed out and they're like shooting into the building because they think Godzilla's on the other side when he clearly isn't. What are they firing at? It's just unnecessary risk, and they blow up the Chrysler Building. And imagine being the guy who blew up the Chrysler Building. Godzilla should have destroyed the Chrysler Building. We should have seen Godzilla destroy the MetLife Building. We should have seen, the Godzilla destroy the what do you call it? The Flatiron Building.
Yeah.
Instead, the military does all this.
Don't mention where you're going after that, though, because
there's so many buildings though that he could have just steamrolled.
Absolutely.
Like, how many buildings in Japan did he just?
Oh, he just that's the thing.
Take out.
But see, that's the thing is
But see, it's like he don't.
Well, they shrunk him down. They decreased the size of the creature.
It's true, but
so he's not going to stomp on a building, but he could still cause some serious damage.
Definitely could just. I'm just
think
right through it.
Did anyone notice that the Chrysler Building later on, when they show like the shot of New York,
it's still there?
It's intact. Like they rebuilt it in record time.
It's still there.
They were just able to like super glue it back together. We got the pieces, guys.
When we get near Ebert,
it's
like
hot glued,
that one was paying attention to
Chrysler Building, and he gets all upset over it and shit. And it's like, yeah, it's right back again.
I love the guy's reaction though. When he blows up the Chrysler Building, he's just like, damn.
He's just like,
whoops.
Military caused more damage.
So Godzilla plays a trick on him. He comes through the other building that was behind the helicopters, takes them all out.
Another Jurassic Park ripoff.
There's plenty of Jurassic Park ripoffs. We might as well get to the Madison Square Garden. See, we got to get there. We got to get there eventually. So we might as well just push forward now because there's nothing in between there.
That's right, because it's all Audrey and Nick garbage that we don't really care about.
And you find out Godzilla's pregnant. That's it.
Yeah, you find out Godzilla's pregnant. She steals the tape, the top secret tape, where she then turns it in, makes her whole report, but then Kamen steals the story, and that's then you get the whole bar scene where she's like, "It's Gojira, you moron."
And again, why didn't he get squashed by Godzilla?
Yeah. But also, I do want to mention the fact, though, that the whole scene we were talking about where he's on the phone and Godzilla walks by and the secretary's like, I think your story just walked by. It's Nancy Cartwright, who does the voice of Bart from The Simpsons.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was
Also during that scene, there's a TV in the background that's showing Barney the dinosaur. And that's meant to be
there.
It's meant to be another like, oh, that's so cute and clever, but there's no reason for Barney to be playing in the background. It should have been.
There is a reason because it was predicting you being excited for Daniel Kaluuya's new Barney movie.
That's not happening. Anyway, it should have been like a little 5-year-old boy watching Barney, and then Godzilla walks by the window. Why is Barney playing in the office of the news station?
Jurassic Park Part 3?
Yeah. Hey, the dinosaur guy's on the phone.
Where Laura Dern comes out, that poor girl, when she had no career at that time. She came out. Yeah, I'll do a cameo in Jurassic Park Part 3.
Yeah. It's amazing when Jurassic Park 3 is doing more things right than Godzilla. That's a sad state of affairs.
No, this scene is a bring your kid to work day.
Clearly.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So, where was I here?
Right.
At this point, I don't know.
So Nick gets fired. Nick gets kicked off the case because of the fact she took the tape and all that stuff happens. So, and then he meets up with the French guy because he's trying to go to the airport, but the Frenchman is taking him to his little headquarters, and they are going to go find the nest because they are there to clean up the mess that they are responsible for, because they're the ones responsible for the bombings that created Godzilla.
Yeah, so America ain't cleaning up those no eggs, no nests.
And we also got to, I guess we should mention the fact that Animal and Audrey are going to be following them. Also, you get a George Carlin cameo in Animal, and is it Tracy? Is that his wife's name? Or whatever the hell her name is? Lucy. Animal walks by George Carlin, who's just leaning up against a wall.
Really? Serious?
Yeah.
Yeah. Dude.
Oh my God.
He doesn't say anything. He's just there. And the only reason I looked out for it is because somebody commented on it when I posted
I saw the comment. was on Twitter, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I saw that, and it reminded me of that, and also upset me greatly that we don't have comedy legends alive anymore
Yeah.
like him. People that were so irreverent.
If you're gonna
and
have
amazing.
George Carlin on set, you may as well have him do or say something.
Say
That's
a
weird.
line at least.
Yeah.
You know what?
They
Though?
didn't want to pay him.
He was probably just hanging out, having a drink, doing Carlin. He never wanted to get involved with something that was not under his contract negotiations, if you will. Hey, just look at what he did for Thomas.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to
my childhood, right?
fight
Thomas?
Thomas the Tank
He
Engine.
doesn't. Yes.
Oh, and
He
also
doesn't want to fight a giant monster. He doesn't want to fight like Bob Barker and what's his face and Happy Gilmore.
Oh, did you say Bob Barker? Oh my God!
Yeah.
Rest in peace. Rest in peace.
Literally grew up watching him, and I
Yeah.
was like, "Fucking."
we all
hell.
did. We all did.
So crazy. Rest in peace. Real.
So
Yeah, George Carlin. I mean, same channel though. PBS. PBS. Hey, listen.
Yeah.
It would be like juxtaposed between CBS when I would take days off and pretend I was sick, watching Price is Right, and then versus that, and then just watching Thomas and the Tank Engine and watching George
Hey.
Carlin.
That was great stuff.
When I was a wee young lad, Loysauce, as you used to call it,
Yes.
and now,
Moving swiftly on.
yes,
so they go
to
Like
the
Gosh, are we
Madison
done yet?
Square Garden sequence
Yes.
of Godzilla.
So they find the nest. And at first they think it's only a few eggs, but then it turns out to be a lot more. And this is when Nick gets really intimate with an egg. He gets really up close and personal. He's rubbing that thing. And then it
We did the
hatches.
Triceratops scene, but with an egg.
It was weirder. Like the Alan Grant Triceratops scene in Jurassic Park is very personal because it's the fact that, this was the dinosaur that he loved as a child. So
It's
like,
not
being able to
sexual at
interact-
all, God damn it.
No, but
No.
Nick is like, shh, quiet, Frenchman. I know you're about to say something important, but this egg, this is my baby now. Like he gets real close. But so all the eggs hatch. We get some really cool practical baby Godzillas, which I really
love this sequence. Yeah, it's fantastic. Tell me we're on the same page here. Let's all just win this episode right now. You and me. This is where the movie wins.
Yeah,
we are 5 out of
like,
6 for this one.
I like all the sequences between everyone, all the humans and the baby Godzillas. I do. I like. There's a lot of practical effects used.
Babyzillas!
Yes, some of them don't look as good, especially when you're watching it 4K, but that's okay. It's like we said, it's of the time. But
There's a shot where it looks like they're just kind of floating above the ground. They have no weight. They
and
have
the colors are different.
Shadow. Yeah.
The colorations are like
They didn't
the
get
CGI
lighting
ones
right
are really dark.
The flashing lights in this sequence too are designed to give the audience a wonderful seizure.
Oh yeah.
Saucy, we all know it was their way of saying, listen, we don't know what we're doing with this yet.
We'll create an atmosphere by turning on and off the lights like a strobe and
But
giving the audience a headache.
The practical suits look all good, though.
Very impressive. I also find it offensive that only the Frenchmen die. All the white Americans escape, but unfortunately, and they're listed in the credits too as like Jean-Paul, Jean-Pierre, like they're all Jean-Claude. Like that's really stereotypical. Really stereotypical.
I was literally just looking at that, and I'm like, shit.
And to be honest, of all the characters in this movie that I got close to, it was all the Frenchmen. I enjoyed, even though you don't get a lot of interaction with them all, I like how they all interact with each other. Like they actually felt like they've been friends for a long time, and to see them all just get wiped out, but yet all the useless characters survive the whole movie. You're like,
I think there needs to be dun 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 music played behind my voice right now, because I will lay down on my back. I will succumb to this right now. I will go down on my knees.
What are you saying?
Loysauce is correct. It's terrible. I'm sorry. You're right. This movie is terribly racist. It's against all of the French.
It's true. It's
You
true.
know, and honestly, they're the most interesting characters in the entire movie. And all we're left with is the terrible white American characters. How dare they? And Roland Emmerich is not even a white American.
Even as a kid, it pissed me off that the Zillas were able to be tripped up by gumballs. You should just be stomping on those gumballs and losing no pace whatsoever.
I needed some like
No.
Three Stooges music playing as that whole scene happened because it.
Benny Hill theme.
Benny Hill, yeah.
Blockbuster product placement and Josta product
Yes.
placement.
Josta, yes, I pointed that out.
Yeah, that
But-
shit was amazing. That
No,
shit
they
gave me
get-
a headache really bad after some really great hangovers.
It was Josta and Surge.
Surge is the shit. It's still available. Josta is not available.
Yep.
It had illegal contents within. But-
From California or the rest of the United States?
I don't know, but it was like when they were like, we're putting guana and
I mean,
of these special ingredients in your caffeine soda.
yeah,
Energy drinks hadn't come out yet.
yeah.
But that was the sign I saw immediately, and of course, Blockbuster is heavily viewed in this Madison Square Garden sequence where you see it over and over again, even though it's supposed to be a different part of the stadium.
Seeing the TNT logo. I used to watch wrestling on TNT. So
Well, of course, because you were a WCW fan. You must have liked the shitty wrestling.
I did like the shitty wrestling growing up. Then I realized the light, and I seen the light, and I went to WWF after that. I was like,
You only saw the funny part. You mentioned that though. You only see the top part of the TNT logo there.
Yeah.
You don't see the when they're looking out the window there.
Yeah, only the OG.
But I knew what it was. I was like, TNT.
Which this movie played on all the time on TNT.
This movie's the NWO of Godzilla movies for sure. This movie is Hogan coming out as heel. I swear to God.
Dude, there you go. There you go.
I know we wanted to jump forward to the MSG section of the movie, but we didn't mention the fact of the swan dive and then him attacking the submarines, and then what Dan mentioned way earlier in the episode, the fact that he runs into a wall and instead of just climbing out, he claws at it and then gets hit with missiles, and then still shot of him floating down like the end of Jaws when the shark blows up.
It just reminds me of cats, like how cats act when they hit something.
Talk about the movie.
Oh, they talk about the movie.
No, not
thought
the
you were
movie.
talking about the movie with Taylor Swift.
Oh,
No.
Was that scene in
Like-
that?
Like we have cats that they just act stupid when they hit
Were they
something.
in the musical?
Oh, Lord.
Dude, I watched PBS Cats all the time growing up.
Classic.
Dude,
It was so good.
listen,
And then they remade it, and I was like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
this is the only thing I have to say about the Madison Square Garden scene. It's fine, but I'd rather watch a scene of a velociraptor getting killed with gymnastics. It's just going to throw that out there.
So would I.
But I love it. See, that's
I
high
don't like
praise.
The Lost World at all.
I love that fucking movie.
I don't, and
See,
even
he
I would
doesn't,
rather
but
watch.
you do and I do. So there's where we're
love-
all gonna come to.
I don't hate.
I'm
the
still
kids.
waiting. I'm still waiting for
together.
Brett to say one thing that he likes about this movie.
Wow. Wow.
Hey, I'm
mind-
just saying.
As much
Listen,
as he
this
says
is
he
how
likes it.
this is how this goes. Okay, I'm trying to be as I'm just you know, I'm an
He's the
adult now.
straight man.
I can see the flaws in it, but I can still have a good time. Okay,
Fair.
things
fair.
don't make
See,
sense, and I
feel
will
that.
happily state what doesn't make sense, what doesn't look good, but I can still sit down with this movie and enjoy it from beginning to end.
I
every
respect
time.
it.
I can enjoy a movie and pick out the flaws. There's so
We've-
many movies that we've covered that I'm like, I enjoyed this movie, but I can pick out all the
Yeah,
flaws.
I
in
mean,
it.
there's a lot of
And be
movies that
fine
we've
with
covered
it.
where I literally would start because we would always start off with our thoughts, and I'd say I love this movie, and then throughout the entire episode, I'm just tearing it to shreds. So it's just how it works for me.
You're dissecting it. That's the
Exactly.
whole thing. Right?
We're
Yeah.
actually doing what the name of our show is, which it's always good when we do it sometimes.
Sometimes he's like,
So-
gosh, I wish this was done.
We get the whole chaos
it's
in
fun. I'm having fun.
Thank God. I was getting nervous. We're getting close to 3 hours here. So
That's the best part.
chaos is happening at Madison Square Garden with all the baby dinosaurs. I'm just going to call them dinosaurs. And they need to send out a message to the military that they need to send a bomber to blow up Madison Square Garden. So they go up there. Audrey does her thing, of course. And Nick goes on and shows them all the baby Godzillas running around. And the military's like, we weren't going to look for a nest because we don't believe it. And then they see the news report and they're like, oh, shit, we probably should do that. But then they give them 6 minutes to escape the garden. And as soon as I would get that message, I go, guys, I think we should just hunker down, accept our fates, because there's no fucking way we're getting out of this place in 6 minutes. Especially when Nick stops 17 times on the way out of Madison Square Garden. He literally turns around to look at the baby dinosaurs chasing him so many times. I was getting so angry. This was the part where I was physically yelling at my TV like, will you just go? Stopping. What are we doing?
That's what our listeners are thinking right now too, by the way. But go ahead. No, I'm just kidding.
He's out in left field too, playing. It's okay. He's picking flowers.
They have the running would be a good idea line that they do again. Like they said it earlier on in the movie and then they have it again. And they should take their own advice. They should run away from the giant angry monsters.
So,
but no, we gotta, watch them eat popcorn.
The funniest thing is they get to the final stretch before they get out of Madison Square Garden. And that's when Roach shoots the lights that kind of pushes away the dinosaurs. But yet you're just like, they wouldn't immediately just go back in to attack them. No, they just stay. It's Owen from Jurassic World. Just stay and just
somebody
run
gets a
out.
rolled up newspaper out and starts hitting the dinosaur
on the nose. To be honest, though, I really enjoy this shot of Madison Square Garden getting blown up, and then you see the baby Godzilla's like trying to get out the door, and then you see the flames just shoot out. I really enjoy that scene.
Well, it's a great practical shot. Dude.
Yes.
It is. So much of the Madison Square Garden stuff they did was all practical, and I think we hadn't taken the time yet. So yes, we're gonna make this even longer.
He's like, I just peed. Let's do it.
Well, I have to.
I feel you.
Only because
Justin, make sure you talk as slowly as possible.
Will try to talk as slowly as possible. In reality, though, you will all agree, I think every single one of you listening, that the movie at least had some great practical effects. That this was the last part of that era where we got this. Anaconda, Lake Placid, this movie, there's a few others, Deep Blue Sea, where we still got like the monsters in full practical, animatronic version and puppets married with the CGI. And now we don't get that at all unless specified, where it's like, hey, we're trying to go back in the day. Remember 30 years ago?
Jurassic World Dominion trying to say, hey, look, we have animatronics.
Exactly. Or anything else like...
Parker, you good?
Yeah. He said Jurassic World Dominion, and I started to feel something coming up my...
Listen, I mean...
Sorry.
The first Jurassic Park's in my top 10 of all time. Jaws is in my top 5 of all time. Like, having practical effects is extremely important to me. Like, my favorite movies are all practical effects, but I also understand the business. And a lot of people hate me for that, but there's a middle ground. Go ahead and hate me. You still like that. So, for example, again, I'll mention this because this is a great middle ground counterpoint, I think. And it's my wife. And she'll never listen to this. I'll promise you that. But she'll still appreciate what you do and also appreciate her point that she makes that I bring up on the show. And when I was watching this to review for your show, she said, I can tell when it's an animatronic close-up or it's a close-up of a model in this movie versus CGI. And I think just from that viewpoint and someone that's kind of a novice in that world, I think that's very important to talk about with this movie. And that it still was part of that era that we have when there was miniatures, because there's plenty of miniature shots in this movie. There was so many different versions of Godzilla that they built full scale for the movie. 7 foot tall scale. I mean, they did so much, regardless of how much Emmerich hated Godzilla or didn't care for Godzilla. He still put a lot of effort as a director in having all of these different departments build these things and create them and perform them. I mean, at the end shot of the movie, I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but when the car is in the mouth, that's a practical mouth.
Yeah,
a practical
and it
car
looks
and a
awesome.
practical mouth, and it looks awesome. There's so many shots that are great. And
I don't understand how Godzilla could destroy a military helicopter with one bite, but he can't crush a taxi with his teeth.
Again.
Hey,
I'm
that
talking
taxi
about
is bulletproof.
what's good versus what's not, Loysauce. I know what you're saying. I know where you're going. What I'm saying is,
I'm poking you a little bit, Justin. I'm teasing.
You gotta poke me. You gotta poke me. You're not poking me where I want you to poke me.
Whoa. That's getting a little bit.
No, for real.
We need to move on before things get too
Even worse.
Sexually charged here.
But I wanted to make a point about the movie though, because you yourself said this. And I remember sitting there. It was like 3 a.m, and we did like the deep dive.
Do you have proof that I said this?
Of course, I have proof.
Okay, go ahead.
He's like receipts.
This was the end of an era.
It was,
in
for
terms
sure.
of marrying those practical effects and those full-scale animatronics and trying to do something. I mean, the people that were involved with making this movie that weren't like necessarily within the vision of Roland Emmerich still put a lot of passion into this movie. And we forget that. And I think today, for example, The Flash was mentioned earlier. And I will not mention anything else about that. But at the same time, people are like, well, I hated this, I hated that. But people forget about the other 1,500 people that, came into play with making that movie. Blue Beetle, another one. You name it. Dial of Destiny is another one. These people just wanted to set out to make the best movie they possibly could. And I think in terms of, it was 97 when they were making Godzilla. These people were just like, dude, we're making an American version of Godzilla. Like, holy shit, like, this is a huge deal. Like, they didn't take it as anything else. Like, they're not being told the industry hoopla or the behind the scenes of anything. They just wanted to be involved with making this thing. And I think looking back at that and looking at the photos and the footage, there's a great video that I just watched on the can 2 seconds ago. For real though, I mean, if you want to watch behind the scenes of this movie, a lot of love and heart went into making this movie.
I mean, I have love for this movie too. I have a little bit of love for this movie.
Just a little bit.
It is responsible for my love for Godzilla. So I have to give it that. I have to give it that credit. And there are things that I like about this movie, for sure.
So good, my point has been made across. There it is.
It has been made. It has been more than made. It has been more than made.
And your hate for the movie's been more than made as well.
All right? I'm not going to say another word.
Either will I.
I'm going to...
All right. Yeah, I mean, we're close. We're close, guys, to the end. We're close. So the babies die. Godzilla shows back up, which I like this scene. I like how Godzilla just emerges in the middle of the blown up Madison Square Garden, gets sad because all of her is it still a boy even though it laid eggs and it reproduced asexually? Because he says, oh, he looks angry.
Not quite how that works, but
Godzilla's a boy. Nick says early on, or in that scene when he's testing doing the pregnancy test, he said that they have the same hormones. Male and female lizards have the same hormones. They don't, as far as I know. I'm no scientist, though. So
Okay. So, yeah, he's upset that his babies are all dead. So now it's a revenge tale of Godzilla versus all the useless characters. And we get a chase scene, which it's not terrible. I like the whole thing where, you know, they're running away and Godzilla's like trying to go down the alleyway and he's too big. So it's like the whole thing of just like, oh, is Audrey going to get it? And I was like, I really hope so. And
She
then
doesn't. Oh, God.
like, oh, man, we were so close. They hop in a cab and they get this whole plan of trying to get the information tag that's inside the cab to O'Neill so that he can talk to Nick in the cab. They get swallowed by Godzilla. Nick shoves a live wire into his gums to spit them out. And
where did that come from?
It's in the road.
Godzilla, no joke, eats the car plus a huge piece of pavement is just in his mouth, and he's just chewing on it. And again, it's one of those things where like animals in the back, he's like, oh, he's gonna swallow it. Like this is the one part of animals, like all the lines that animal has where I was just like, I was Roach. I was like, shut the fuck up. Like we're all in the same situation here. Just stop. So they get spit out and they come up with the plan. We need to get him to the Brooklyn Bridge so that he gets tangled up in the wires and then, you know, we can attack him. And did Godzilla not get hit by anything in this movie to the point where he dies from just rockets to its side?
So offensive to me.
Well,
so offensive.
Yeah.
Because did he not get hit by the rockets or the torpedoes?
I thought he got hit by one of the torpedoes.
But did he? Because
we see him falling away. Like,
yeah,
he's on his back.
He dodged, ducked, dived, and dodged missiles and bullets throughout the entire movie. So
I'm assuming they're thinking the torpedoes didn't hit him directly, but they were close enough to him where the concussive blast knocked him unconscious, and he died.
Sense.
So he just took a fucking little cozy little nap.
He was just taking a
Pretty
nap.
much.
It was the recharge scene in King of the Monsters where, you know, he's down there just taking a nap and they gotta set a nuke off to.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Ooh, juice him
Sometimes
up.
he gets struck. Sometimes he gets
Gotta
struck by lightning.
get
Sometimes he gets
juiced
a nuke.
up. So Godzilla's dead, and you get the whole sad scene of, you know, Nick looking into his eyes one last time as he closes it, and he is dead.
Goodbye, my lover.
Bye, my friend.
Literally.
I dare say that out of the entire movie, and lynch me if you will, the ending is the only moment where I feel like Emmerich actually connects with the character. Much like Loysauce's favorite version of King Kong. Where it's like, yeah, King Kong's dead, laying there on a bridge. Yep. We're supposed to
The
feel
audience
bad
is
about
meant
it.
to feel something, right?
Yeah.
In all reality, I'm being facetious here, but at the same time, I feel like this is the only moment of actual emotion towards the character, and visually as well. I love like Godzilla on the Brooklyn Bridge and the whole thing, and the heartbeat slowly slowing down, and then of course it's like too little, too late for all of us that actually care about movies.
So Godzilla should just not be taken out by the military. I think that's the takeaway.
Well, that's the funny thing, because that was one of the rules that they were given, was that Godzilla couldn't die. Like they couldn't kill him.
And they just like
they literally just flipped
it in the
off.
garbage.
Yeah, they're just like, fuck you. We're doing what we
Oh, wait a
want.
minute. Did they mean like Godzilla themselves or their sperm?
Their spawn.
Well, that's the thing.
Hey, because we know at the end of the movie we see a teaser for a sequel.
Well, that's the thing. So originally it was going to be a sequel, but then it got turned into the animated series because that egg hatches, attaches to Nick, thinks it's his parent, and then they have adventures for 40 episodes.
And that's
Different
more like
monsters each episode, which rules.
Yep.
Mhm.
I remember watching that as a kid.
And the Godzilla from this movie comes back. as Cyber Godzilla.
Well, I was going to say Mecha Godzilla.
I really need to rewatch this animated series because I'm like, wait, what?
True fact.
It's awesome.
But yeah, you get a whole thing with the whole tape that Animal had, which is just useless. And Roach just kind of disappears, calls Nick one more time, and that's the end of the movie.
That's just like Godzilla burrows a hole into the ground, and they never see him again.
I'll say this much, then I will leave my comments for another show. But I will say, as much as I enjoy this movie, it's 1998, man. There was a way to make this feel scary, feel real. I mean, thinking about when this movie happened, pre 9/11, and seeing a whole New York City being destroyed, there was so much they could have done. None of it worked. It didn't land with anybody.
Clearly landed with you and Brett, right?
Well, I mean, in a childlike way. I feel like it was the first Godzilla movie that I saw, but it was post the Jurassic movies, much like he's a huge fan of as well. If anything, it was an entryway into the character and me getting to know that character better and being able to say, hey, listen, because at the time, man, I mean, where I lived regionally in New York, it's not like outside of Sci-Fi Channel we had that much coverage for Godzilla. So where was I going to find it? It's not like that was on VHS. Any of the movies were available or anything. So
very few of them. Yeah.
It led me to where I'm at now, where I'll watch any Godzilla movie. But at the time, it was like that first big thing to me. And I, Brett said it perfectly. And it was like, I love dinosaurs. And that was my world at that time, being a young kid. So,
well, I feel like most of us have shared our thoughts on this movie. I mean, I've shared it a few times. So whoever didn't share their thoughts on the movie, please share now. I feel like most of us have already done that.
I didn't.
Okay, Dan, go ahead.
Okay, listen. I'm gonna try to keep this short. This was, I thought, a pretty good giant monster movie and a decent Godzilla movie at worst. I don't think it should have been called Godzilla, obviously. I think it should have been called Iguanodonolus or whatever you want to call it. Anything other than Godzilla, it would have been
I like
fine.
that name, Iguanodonolus.
It's patent, so don't take it.
It's like the ship from Deep Rising. What was it? The Aqua. I can't even remember.
I don't know. I just think of tricycloplots. But anywho,
there you go.
This movie, I think, it's just fun and it's nostalgia. And like Justin said, it got a lot of people that didn't know about Godzilla into Godzilla movies. And I was fortunate enough that my father, his brother, and a lot of people were into that kind of stuff. And they had the old VHSs that there weren't a lot of. But most of the movies I could watch whenever I wanted to growing up. I had that accessibility. And this helped out. And then because of this, they released the 90s films here in the States, made them available, and released a bunch of the old stuff from back in the day. So it really helped more than it hurt the franchise in the long run.
Yeah.
Not the animated series, a lot of bullshit. But at the end of it, I'm gonna say I do like the movie. I do enjoy the movie going back and watch it. I used to hate it. I had the experience of watching it when I was a kid and liking it and then going through the whole thing. That's not Godzilla. Fuck that shit for like 20 years. And I'm like, what the fuck? This is dumb. It's still a Godzilla movie.
The Godzilla.
Oh, everybody online hated it. Everybody in the Godzilla fandom because they're all up their own asses. But anyway, I liked it. I've come back around to enjoy it.
Me, Dan.
I don't know. I can't help it. I'm included in that. I understand. I'm not better than the community. I'm part of it.
Absolutely.
But I've come around and I do enjoy this movie. And I think it's a decent Godzilla movie. And I would watch this way more than I'd watch probably a handful of original Japanese Godzilla movies. Because the Millennium Era, I do not like.
Oh my God. Look at Loysauce. Look at his face.
As much as I love them, most of the Millennium Era, I do not watch more than once. And Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla is probably my most hated Godzilla movie. I fucking hate that movie.
Okay.
Oh my
God. Final Wars? Wait.
Even Final Wars. Final Wars is part of the Millennium Era.
You and I need to have a discussion, obviously separate and apart from this podcast, about Godzilla lore and our opinions, because my mouth literally that was an involuntary reaction. I would put this at the very, very, very bottom of Godzilla movies. So I'm fascinated, and I really would love to chat I mean,
Absolutely.
Honestly,
care
what
to.
what I'm
care to.
feeling here, what I'm feeling here is the two
We've made
of
friends,
you,
I think.
the two of you
Maybe.
may just have a new Godzilla podcast coming secretly. I mean, there may be something.
I don't want to,
No.
get in the middle of whatever.
I
they've
can
got
just
going
hear
on, but-
something going on right there.
No, there was certain comments that you made versus what he made. I was like, man, you guys could become like friends
Listen,
over that.
I'm a-
Just over your
That's the
back and
beauty-
forth.
That's the beauty of podcasting, and that's the beauty of this show, bringing people together.
Yes. And my last thing I'm going to say about all of this is, on that note, obviously I have my Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla tattoo on my arm. I love the first two films. But the Millennium Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla movies are the biggest insult to those fucking movies, and I fucking hate them. And that's my closing statement. Millennium, Godzilla, and then Godzilla Tokyo SOS. Those two.
Tokyo SOS is one of my least favorite Godzilla movies, but I highly enjoy versus Mechagodzilla. But that's
fair.
Or would it be against Mechagodzilla? It would be
Against.
Godzilla against Mechagodzilla because it's distinct from Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, and also distinct from Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla 2.
Which is, I hate that name. We'll talk about it another time.
Do
But
me
anyway.
a favor, whoever is editing this podcast, please delete every sense of dialogue that I had in this thing, because I do not deserve to be a part of this, because I am not a true Godzilla fan. Just let me drown in the waters.
Nope,
I'm done,
it's all
I'm done.
staying in, baby.
Please,
Parker is the one that. So
There's no gatekeeping here. No gatekeeping.
No. So
Just gaslighting.
I'll gatekeep my fucking self.
Godzilla 98 was the first Godzilla movie I had ever was even remotely introduced to, because I hadn't met him yet. I didn't meet him till way later, almost 10 years later. So he introduced me to the bulk of Godzilla films that I had ever watched. So I just assumed that, this was all that was available. He introduced me to more, fell in love with certain movies that I like, he doesn't like. I love Final Wars. He does not. We have...
I think it's overhyped.
Yeah. True. But that's where Monster X comes from, and that's...
Monster X is okay.
That's one of my favorites. So, getting introduced to certain Godzilla films, I see where the fandom can be like, this is like, meh. Because I am one of those that likes to nitpick at just the eensy wincy bits of certain movies, and I'm like, yeah, I like this, but there's this tiny part that I don't like, and it just kind of blows up from there. But there's a lot that I like, and I can see why people don't like certain. I can see why people don't like this one. I get it, but I still like it.
Well, I'm alone on an island here then.
You are.
You are
really
on
are.
Monster
You 100%
Island.
are. It's actually an archipelago, but it's fine.
I mean, I feel like we've heard every thought Loysauce could share about about this movie.
I'm sorry.
Do you have anything?
I'm really sorry.
No, stop saying you're sorry. Stop it. It's okay. It's okay. That's why we're all here. That we're having fun. But do you guys
Stop
have anything
apologizing.
else
We wanna
you guys
hear
want to
it.
state about this movie before we move on to the final part of the show?
It's
Yes,
watch
I'm
it.
so
Just
sorry to
watch
bring
it.
on Loysauce on your
No.
show.
Stop
I deeply regret it.
No.
I never knew what could possibly happen where I had to unleash a beast
Hey,
on your
did
show.
we all have fun? That's all that matters. Okay? Did we
He
all
is
have a
as
good time?
formidable as the original Gojira.
No. We want to continue this chat elsewhere.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm just
wanna
pissed I
thank
didn't
you.
get my fish.
I want to thank you all so much for having us. It was
Yes.
it was really a
Definitely.
pleasure.
Well,
really a
thank,
pleasure.
Thank you guys for coming
Definitely.
on, and you two are always welcome back on the show anytime. We can talk more Godzilla. We could talk anything you guys want to talk about. This was Justin's choice a while ago. It was between this and Spawn, and so we decided to do Spawn first. And then I said, "Well, I got to bring you back on for this." And then he said, "Well, how about bringing
How
Loysauce
dare
on too?"
you?
And I
How
said,
dare
"Yeah."
you? It was your idea. You put it in me.
Shh.
Yeah.
Stop
Quiet.
pretending.
Quiet. Shh.
Look,
I'm supposed to
Parker is in charge of the people that come on.
We just show up.
We literally just show up, but I have literally enjoyed every single guest that we have had on. You make things more interesting. You make me think different about certain movies that I've watched. And it's fun.
The alternate perspective is wonderful.
And
I like playing out in left field with other people.
And next thing you know, Loysauce and Dan are going to have the biggest Godzilla podcast known to man in the next 6 months. Just wait and see what happens.
You invite me on, I'm fine with it.
As long as I could just be a producer, I don't want to be on the show. I just want to be. I'll just be the guy in the background, just saying things randomly because I have no knowledge of Godzilla other than what we've covered.
I mean, I've watched everything that you've watched.
You've seen all of them, I think.
Yep.
But all I got to say, and this is, I'm not saying this as a negative, but this is officially the longest episode of Dissect That Film.
It's a Godzilla movie!
Here, I'm literally trying to stay awake at this point.
Listen,
but it's not a bad thing. Just saying.
So it's funny because one of our it beat out another Godzilla episode and our Jurassic World Dominion, which was a 3-hour episode. So
wow.
Yeah. So
I give you express permission to cut this down liberally.
This is going to be
large swaths of the episode can just.
I got plenty of time. As we always state, we record these like 3 weeks in advance, so I got time. But
he's just going to add half of this to the bloopers reel.
Oh yeah.
So even though, as I stated before, even though I was very nitpicky and I was very critical of a lot of things that happened in this movie, I still love this movie a lot. I wouldn't spend money on a t-shirt. I wouldn't buy the VHS again. I wouldn't buy the 4K Blu-ray. I already have the Blu-ray of this movie. So like I wouldn't spend all this money on Godzilla 98 stuff if I didn't love this movie. Yes, it has a lot of problems. Yes, I understand the hatred for it. I do. I understand why Godzilla like loyal Godzilla fans don't like this movie. This is the movie that introduced me to the character, even if it's not the true character. And this is a movie that really made me fall in love with cinema and just movies in general. And it's just a lot of fun. Like it's dumb. In my opinion, it is dumb fun. It's a monster movie and I love it. That's my thoughts. So we're going to go over to Twitter and all the socials real quick and read off some comments that people left us. I'm going to make this as quick as possible. So over on Twitter or X, whatever the fuck you want to call it now. Our first comment is from the Dewey Pod Monster. He's the one who mentioned the George Carlin cameo. He said, I'm amazed that this exists in 4K. Also, if you're not aware of, there is a George Carlin cameo in there. The next one is from the Let's Talk Horror channel, who said, not a massive fan of the movie, but because of Matthew Broderick, but it still has one of the best soundtracks ever. Remember the days when the anticipation for a killer soundtrack would be up there with the film itself? Yes, and I miss it greatly. The next one is from the Contrarians, who said at least it doesn't have Bryan Cranston overacting for 15 minutes. And I defended that because if they kept Bryan Cranston alive in Godzilla 2014, that movie would have been way better. They should have killed off the wooden character that was Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Yeah,
get rid of that character and just had Bryan Cranston in the movie for the whole time. And that movie would have been amazing.
Yeah. I love the Contrarians. They need to find something better to do with their time.
Certainly is a hot take.
Our next one is from Johnny Browning, who said, as a kid, I was so hyped for it. Even bought my one and only copy of Fangoria because it was an all Godzilla issue. Then I went opening day and I was disappointed with the movie. Thankfully, I matured and love the movie for what it is now. It's in my collection.
We love Johnny.
From @EyeballSoup says, I like it a lot still, and it takes me back to good memories. I believe this is also the only film my Nana ever took me to see in the theater. Sweet.
Love that. I love hearing stories like that.
I mean, that's like I stated, that's why this movie connects with me so much, because it really, me and my grandma, that she was the one who got me into movies, and this was one of them, one of the big ones. Our next one is from Seismic Cinema, who said, loved it as a kid. Just sheer chaos through the streets with plenty of explosions and action set pieces, which is totally my jam. Quite enjoyed the campy humor. Also had the official CD for some reason, some absolute bangers. I don't know what that says. P. Diddy, Green Day, etc. added to it. I don't know if that's an artist name, but I don't know what that says. We have 50 zombies left to kill. who says, I wasn't a big fan of making Godzilla a woman and having baby Godzillas running around New York. The new Godzilla movies are much better. Okay. Our next one is from I'm Batman, or at Batman's Unite, who just says I loves it. Our next comments are from Instagram. We have two. We have Give Me Back My Horror Movies, who just said the marketing for this movie was so insane. And we have Field of Screams Film, who just said it is a comfort sick watch for us over here. Oh, we got one comment over on Threads from SWO Productions, or our friend Stuart, patron of the show, who said, haven't seen it in ages, but it has Jean Reno, so how bad could it have been? Its biggest problem was probably being called Godzilla.
Yep. That was it.
So thank you to everyone who left a comment. And the last thing is, if you want to get episodes early and all that fun stuff, we got a lot of extra content. We actually have a monster show where we cover other monster movies on our Patreon at our $5 tier. It's called The Monster Zone. We've covered some pretty awesome bangers from the 50s. Recently, we did Varan, and we did The Black Scorpion, which are both from, I believe, it was like 1957 and 1958, or
correct.
Just pretty close.
You're right there.
So make sure to go over to patreon.com/dissect that film if you want to get access to those exclusive shows. We make those shows exclusively for you awesome people who subscribe to us over on Patreon. Also, if you want to subscribe to us at the $1 tier, you can get all these episodes early. You get them about a week early, which is great. And also, I just want to thank all of our patrons. We have Robert Stewart, Rudy5453, Andrew Schoening, Eric Stein, the Baron's Hideout Podcast, Dan and Angela of DNA Gaming, Billy Joseph Jr., the Flicks and Friends Podcast, Doom Generation, Johnny Browning, and Nerdtrovert. So thank you to all of our wonderful patrons. And next week, before we leave, next week, we are back to cover the final two films in the Conjuring universe so far, as next week we cover 2020's Annabelle Comes Home. So, and this is all a first time watch for all three of us. So this is going to be fun.
Have fun with that.
Yeah. I've not heard great things.
What I hear.
I've not heard great things. So yeah, I want to thank our wonderful guests, Justin and Loysauce, for joining us on this monumental episode. This is, like I said, this is an episode I have been so excited to do for so long. And you know what? It being the longest episode of this show ever, just, I feel like it's perfect for what,
is
what
it really
this
the
movie
longest
is.
of all time?
This is the longest
time?
episode of the show ever. So,
You're gonna get
and
an
it's not a
award.
fault of anyone here. This just shows how much we were having a great time talking about this movie. Even if it was good or bad, we had a great time. This is what happened with the Godzilla King of the Monsters episode. We had two diehard Godzilla fans talking about Godzilla, and Justin, he's got a lot to say too. So, it's just a lot going on, and did we all have fun? That's all I care about. Did we have fun?
Yeah, we
Yes,
have.
teacher.
Can I watch it?
No. So,
Not only did I have fun, but I implore every single person listening to go out to your local Best Buy, your local Target, your local Walmart.
They definitely don't sell movies anymore.
They do, because I went to my local Best Buy and they had Godzilla 4K on the shelves in Winchester, Saucy. So how dare you? In this tiny little town that I live in, if they have Godzilla 4K here, if they have it everywhere else, buy it.
The world we live in, that Godzilla 1998 is on 4K Ultra HD.
Yeah, and as
I don't
of
think
yesterday,
it's in our little town.
as of yesterday, they announced a Steelbook 4K of Godzilla that will be out in October.
Brand new! Look at that cover art, dude. It's amazing. I'll rebuy it as well.
It's beautiful.
Gonna be
It is
rebuy
beautiful.
that shit.
But
that's the image of Godzilla that terrified me as a young child. I was scared to watch this movie.
You're still scared of it. You're still scared of it.
Yeah, he looks fearsome.
all right. Well,
That's the point.
where can everybody find you guys?
Not us.
Somewhere.
Yeah, no. I'm talking about Justin, Loysauce, whoever
Justin,
wants
go
to go
ahead.
first.
Saucy,
Rock, paper, scissors.
go ahead.
Okay. You can find me on Instagram and Letterboxd at Go Loysauce Go. That's Go Loysauce Go. Letterboxd and Instagram.
Yeah. Loysauce, trademarked under the Epic Film Guy's name. No, but for real, if you're listening to this episode, thank you for listening. And
yes, thank you.
Thanks to these amazing people for inviting us on once again. Batman Returns, Spawn. I mean, you guys have been so fantastic to invite me on time and time again, and being able to bring on my son, my illegitimate son, who is, you know, I felt like if it was Godzilla related, I had to bring him on, and I'm so glad that Loysauce, you and Dan connected on this show.
A little spark.
I'm expecting the biggest Godzilla podcast of all time from this, but Epic Film Guys is on literally every social media platform known to man. We're old. You probably don't want to listen to us because we're so old and archaic.
Oh, nonsense!
You 100% need to listen to Epic Film Guys. It's a show I listen to every single time they drop an episode. I'm there listening to it, even if it's something I haven't seen yet, because that's just how loyal I am.
But what I love is, honestly, and just being straight up about this, is doing shows with young up-and-comers that have so much talent that I appreciate, that I think are fantastic. I don't just, choose to use my time doing nothing. When I find people that I think have talent, I love to take that time and collaborate. And you guys have just been growing so hardcore, and just, you're one of the best movie podcasts out there right now. And I'm so proud to be a part of that in terms of like being there early on and stuff. Like, you guys are crushing it. Keep doing what you're doing. Never look back. You're fantastic. I love you guys. Jeez. Thank you so much for inviting us on the show tonight.
That is wow. I don't even thank you so much. It means a lot, because you were like literally one of the biggest pages to follow us in the beginning. So to have you on just to have you on that first time was like mind blowing, and now to have you three times, and hopefully a lot more.
Why do you think I brought on the God? I brought on the God tonight,
and to have another legend like Loysauce, who I've listened to so much throughout. Listening to Epic Film Guys and listening, and you were part of the
live stream for the
sorry, my brain is all scrambled up right now.
It's okay. Yeah. I forget it all the time too. So.
But just
you gave him a compliment.
And like I always say, to be able to reach out to podcasters that I admire so much, or people I admire so much, and them to say yes to coming on the show, it just like blows my mind. So thank you guys again for coming on. This has been an absolute blast. And even if it is a really long episode, it didn't feel like it. To me, this was just a normal
a movie of such size and stature.
Remember, size does matter.
It does. It does. Yes, it does.
Size does matter.
There it is.
On that beautiful VHS. There. Oh,
Not about the size of the boat. It's the motion in the ocean.
But all of their links will be down in the description, so you can follow these wonderful, wonderful people. All of our links are down in the description. You can follow us, of course, on all the social medias. We're on all the podcast apps. We're on YouTube. If you're watching us, you already know we're on YouTube. And we're on Patreon, as we stated before, patreon.com/dissect that film. So go check us out. Help us make this thing even bigger. And until next time, I am Brett Parker. That is Dan and Angela of DNA Gaming. That is Justin and Loysauce from Epic Film Guys. And this has been the Dissect That Film podcast, episode 123. We'll see you all again next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.